Traveling the Vortex.
We joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed episode number 105. We don't know why anybody listens to us. We only know who. I'm Keith.
I'm Shaun.
And I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Good. Fantastic.
Did you have a good New Year's?
I did. My apologies to Shaun.
He's not lying dead in a ditch somewhere. That's
My apologies to Shaun. I should have given him a heads up. No, here's what happened. Shaun had a New Year's party last night, which I'm sure was a ton of fun. However,
It was.
Originally, my mom was going to keep the kids overnight. They were going to do their little New Year's Eve thing, and Holly and I were going to come. And then yesterday, my cousin, who was going to stay over, was sick, and my mom wasn't feeling well. So they said, well, maybe we shouldn't keep the kids tonight. So they were at home, and so I thought, okay, well, I'm still going to go make an appearance. And then when I got home, Holly and Caitlin were still up, and they were just doing fun little party things. So I stuck around, and I said, I'm going to hang out with the girls tonight.
That's all right.
Yeah.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. I thought you might forgive me, but it wasn't until about 1:30 that I thought, we never got a poker table from me.
And no poker was played.
There was no poker played.
Well, if you had a table, you might have played.
And we might have. Maybe. I thought about it. I meant to text you first thing in the morning, and at noon when I got up.
That is first thing in the morning.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year.
Since we're talking about it.
2013.
No, actually, I was up very early because, the whole mom thing.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, what happened there?
Well, she broke her ankle.
Which one of the reasons we're recording so late Tuesday is because Sunday
night,
she broke her ankle.
She was out with the dog, and WA charged at something, and every time she takes the dog out, and Tom's not there at the moment, and he said, well, make sure you take your cell phone and your flashlight with you. That's his big thing. Take your flashlight, take your cell phone, just in case, take all this stuff. So she was out with WA and her flashlight and her cell phone, and WA charged with something and started barking.
Smart.
Yeah.
And she whipped the flashlight around to see what he was barking at and tripped over a tree stump. And said she could feel the ankle rotate all the way around. So apparently laid there in pain for a little bit and then crawled back into the house and decided she wasn't going to do anything. She put some ice on it and sat on the couch for a couple hours.
Thinking that there was a chance it wasn't broken.
Maybe I'll mess with it tomorrow. That's the way my mom is.
Nothing like letting the bone start to heal before you decide to go.
Yeah. And a couple hours later, when apparently it started to turn colors, she called some of her friends and said, can you come take a look at this? I said, what does it look like? Well, it's purple. Honey, you broke it. We're going to come over. So they convinced her to go to the hospital because she wasn't going to. She was going to go maybe.
Did she come to Topeka or Osage City?
Yeah, they went to Topeka. And then she called Tom to let him know. Now,
and he said, did you take your flashlight and your cell phone?
Tom's a worrier. So despite the fact that my mom's like, well, don't say anything because, I don't want anybody to worry. So Tom immediately calls me to let me know. He calls Eric to let Eric
in Hawaii.
Now, keep in mind, my brother's in Maui. My mom's in Kansas. My brother's in Maui.
I'll be there in 14 hours.
Tom's in Montana at the moment. So you're geographically, you're closer than he is. But he called Eric to let him know. So that, you can worry. So then Eric calls me. What's the deal with Mom? And I'm like, all I got was, I haven't talked to her. The only thing I got out of her was that she was on her way to the hospital. She wouldn't even tell me which one because she didn't want me to come down.
Because why did she not want you to come down?
Because it was podcast night.
Yeah, she recorded. Your mom's such a sweetheart.
She's like, well, and her exact words are, I was like, Mom, that's not important. I'll come down. She goes, you don't have to come sit. What are you going to do? Come sit in the hospital with me? I was like, yeah. She goes, there are thousands of people around the world depending on you.
I wish that were true.
Those are her exact words.
It's more like hundreds, but okay.
Thousands of people around the world.
Even if there are thousands of people listening, depending on is a bit strong.
Might be a little bit
depending on me to put out a quality product on Sunday night. And it's like, which hospital are you going to, Mother?
Mom will bring the equipment, record at the hospital while we wait.
Yeah, we could have, actually.
Yeah. Been quieter.
But so we got down. Finally got out what a hospital was, and I'm telling Eric, "Is like, I know she's on the way to the hospital. I'm on my way to the hospital. I'll probably beat her there. I'll give you a call when I have more information." He says, "I'm at work. Send me a text." I said, "Okay."
The nice thing about Topeka is Mom doesn't tell you which hospital you're at.
We have two.
We have two. They're right next to each other. They're across the street. So you stand in between two, and you think, okay, if I do finally figure out which one she's at, I don't have to go far. It's not like you have to drive clear across town.
That's what we did when we found out my mom was in the ER, and she didn't tell me. Yeah. We just drove
go to
the ERs and found her car. And then, okay, she's here.
Well, that's even better. Yeah, I was just saying, you can just go in and say, "Is there a Carol Miles here?" Oh, okay.
We did wind up beating her to the hospital because she was coming in from Burlingame. So I went up and she registered yet? No. Okay. So then I called Tom back, and he's like, "So what's going on?" I'm like, "I beat her to the hospital. I'm here waiting for her I've got a wheelchair. I already snagged one, and I'm waiting." Okay, good boy.
Playing the good dog.
And
sit.
But they did the X-ray, and I told Keith it was like, people ask, "Well, how bad? What?" When you watch the Muppet movies, and there's those really awkward shots of Miss Piggy's legs.
Yeah.
That's what my mom's ankle looked like.
Kind of floppy.
That big knotted ham hock.
Oh, gosh.
Foot.
Yeah, no.
That's what it looked like. So, but yeah, they put her in a splint and said, "You got to call a specialist tomorrow." So then she was adamant she was going home, and we kept trying to tell her, I was like, "You probably ought to just come stay with us tonight. Because you'd be in town and get your appointment scheduled, and you got to come back."
It's not like she's going to be able to hobble around out there in the farm either.
Well, and it's supposed to snow, Mom. So let's do. No, well, you really want to go home? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I drove out with her, and Grizz and Caroline took her home. They were sweethearts for bringing her all the way in, but they took her home and stopped at their place and got her a walker because the woman in the ER said that those are actually easier to deal with than the crutches.
Sure.
For her, and so kind of spent, I don't know, till probably 2 in.morning trying to get her kind of settled and everything. And, of course, WA is all... If ever there was a dog that they invented Doggy Prozac for, WA is that dog. He's a terrier. And he's just constant, nonstop. And he kept jumping up on the bed. And then he'd lay with her. And then he'd jump off the bed. And then he'd jump up on the bed. And he'd lay with her. And he'd jump off the bed. And each time he'd pass by the foot. And she just cringed. And, eventually she was like, "What? Can you do me one more favor?" So, "Yeah, what do you need?" "Take him in there with you and sleep." "Okay." So, of course, I didn't sleep because WA's in the room. And then somebody was supposed to come over and let WA out in the morning. And so we left the door open and all that kind of stuff. So what happens? I have to go take WA to the door because the guy doesn't come in. So I'm up at 6 after going to bed at 2. Didn't sleep with WA in the room. Let him out. Let him run around. And then he came back in. And then I hear him yelling at Mom, "Okay, if there's anything else you need, make sure you let us." Like, the whole point of you coming over at 6 in.morning was that she could get some sleep. Okay. Yeah, it was that kind of stuff. But we got her settled and over at my uncle's house now. And he took her to her appointment today where they for sure confirmed, or I guess it was yesterday. Yesterday? What's today?
I thought it was today.
What's today? Today Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Monday was her appointment. Oh. Where they said, it's broken, for sure. And you can either stay off of it for 6 to 8 weeks and let it heal, or you can go ahead and have surgery and we'll put a plate in it, and that way you can start to put weight on it a little bit sooner. And she actually opted for the surgery option.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
So
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm not either, quite honestly.
Knowing your
mom.
mom.
Your mom's a very mobile person. She doesn't want to be late.
Well, and she commented many times that, if I'd broken an ankle, or if I'd broken an arm,
If
I'd broken an arm, I'd been better off. Because your ankle, you don't think about it, but it's just
they have all that acreage out there too. I mean, she's got to be mobile. So.
Yeah. So, but we got her over to my of course, my uncle was a hoot because she's hobbling her way up the walk, and he's, "Come on, hop along." "Come on, Gimpy. Come on," then just one after another, throwing these zingers at her. Gets her on the couch, and he looks at her, and he starts rubbing his hands, going, "I'm so glad you're here, sister. You sit comfortably. I'm going to go get a 2x4 and a sledgehammer." And he runs off, and she's looking at me like, "Do I have to stay here?" So, but she was in good spirits when I talked to her today.
Good.
My apologies to everyone who, all the thousands of listeners around the world who had to wait an extra couple days.
It's funny because as Keith and I are talking about today, so last week we got postponed because of Christmas festivities, and then we were going to record on Christmas. Then we ended up even waiting until Wednesday because we were all too tired. Keith had to work late. And so, like, what would have been our pre-Christmas episode ended up being after Christmas.
Post-Christmas.
And then this week, what would have been our New Year's, or the end of the year show ends up being
First of the
year show. So we are recording now on New Year's Day, 2013. Again,
Yes.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Yeah, we're just kind of all over the map on this. We'll get it right eventually.
Anything else going on in your guys' weeks?
Life gets in the way. I bought a snowball mic. We already talked about that.
Not on show.
No, we didn't talk about it on the show.
That was pre-show.
We're recording on one of our mics now is a blue snowball, which a lot of the other podcasts are using. So we thought we'd give it a try. And
If
I got a
Glenn's
really
dulcet
good deal.
tones sound particularly rich.
Well, that's never going to happen. But I'm just going to hide.
Doesn't it have a built-in filter or something?
I don't know. Maybe it does.
It's amazing. I talk into this mic and it sounds like Orson Welles.
It looks like I'm talking into an old-time radio mic. No, so we're trying
It looks
that
like a
out this week.
troclophane is what it looks like.
Maybe that's what it
Maybe
is.
that's what you were thinking
That's
of.
what you were thinking. It does look, now I'm scared.
I can't believe you.
It's a future
I can't
human.
believe we're sitting here. We're about to talk about the snowman, and you brought a snowball. Are you asking for trouble?
Wow, serendipity. No, my other big purchase this week is I bought airline tickets to California for Gallifrey.
Oh, yeah.
So I have, and much to what will be Shaun's chagrin, I am connecting in Dallas. That was how I got the cheapest flight I could get out of here. Which, by the way, too bad we didn't buy them before the new year, because after January 1st, there was a whole bunch more fees and everything that kicked in.
Really?
Yeah, and they're charging for baggage. Even Southwest has a baggage charge now, which they were free all the way up until the end of the year, apparently. So, heads up for anybody that hasn't bought their galley tickets or their airline tickets.
Great.
Get on that. But yeah, I'm actually leaving Friday morning. Sorry, Keith. Heads up.
That gives me
You're
till
working.
February 14th to find a new job.
There you go. I'm leaving Friday morning, and then unfortunately, I have to leave by 3 on Sunday to get back in time. So,
Oh, that blows.
Yeah.
You'll miss.
doesn't blow.
Or wait,
Closing ceremony.
you miss
So,
closing
yeah.
ceremonies and stuff.
I will.
That was the fun.
The
one.
idea, though, was to be there the bulk of Saturday. I'll be there all day Saturday.
Yeah.
So if I can get everything I can get done that day, then kind of leave some of the other stuff for Sunday, I'll be okay. I'm just happy to be there for a wonderful day.
Yeah.
I'll get in there Friday, and I'm flying into LAX, so that's a nice thing is I can
You can
just
just
shuttle right
shuttle in,
over to the hotel, and then shuttle out. So I don't have to leave too early and drive clear across town or anything. So I didn't check. Where'd you fly into, John Wayne? I didn't check John Wayne.
We flew into John Wayne.
I didn't because I didn't want anybody to have to, A, if you were renting a car, come pick me up, or B, rent a car myself to get over there. So I decided it was just easier to pay a little more to go to LAX.
Yeah. Which I think we might wind up doing again, since we're
to
talking
John
about
Wayne?
going down a couple days early. So,
Oh, that makes sense, though. If it's cheaper, and you're going to be there early anyways.
yeah. Maybe.
So the only thing I haven't paid for now is my hotel. So
Nice.
I got you now. I get you some cash.
I haven't paid for it yet either.
Well, when you do.
It's on a reserve, you know.
Although I'm only going to be there. I'm only need it 2 nights now. So.
I suppose we'll have to divvy that out and divide the 4.
Carry the 7.
How was the New Year's Eve party? You didn't talk about that last
Oh,
time.
it was good. We had a lot of fun. I think everybody enjoyed the new place, and there was rock band, and there was 3-man.
There was rock. I'm glad I went there. No, I'm just kidding.
Do I have your rock band mic?
Maybe you do, because we were looking for it the other day and couldn't find it.
Okay.
Oh,
Caitlin
okay.
wanted
It's
to
got to be yours then.
Caitlin wanted to do karaoke and she couldn't find it anywhere.
It's got to be yours.
Oh,
I thought it was Adams, and he's like, "No, I've got mine back." And then I was like, "Well, it's got to be Keith's," and Keith was like, "No, I had a Guitar Hero, not
Mine
Rock
were
Band,
always Guitar Hero.
and I have 2." And I was like, "Well, I know I don't have 2."
Yeah,
so
I was looking. I think I brought it over one time when we were going to do
Must be
Beatles or
yours.
something, and we wanted to do harmonies or something. Or
Okay.
maybe it was even Rock Band 3.
I'll bring it with you next
Okay,
time.
because we found out that there's a karaoke channel now on Xbox Live,
Oh.
and you pay. You have to pay.
As with all Xbox Live content.
So you pay for
Let
either
alone
2
just
hours.
getting online.
Yeah, I think it's either 2 hours. You can pay 2 hours. You can pay 8 hours, or you can pay 24 hours. And I think that's how the packages work out. And the nice thing is, I mean, you pay for 2 hours. It's not it's like an accumulative 2 hours, not a consecutive 2 hours.
Gotcha.
So you haven't paid for 2 hours, and then 10 minutes,
You
and
only
then you
play
have to
10
run,
minutes.
take your
Yeah,
mom to the
gotcha.
hospital because she broke her ankle. You've lost the rest of your hours. No, it's accumulative. And then, so yeah, we went looking to do that. And a good thing I hadn't paid for it yet because I couldn't find the mic. So we broke out Caitlin's actual little karaoke machine and did that anyway.
Oh. Well, Sarah's been working very hard on knitting monsters.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. That's kind of a cool project.
For those that don't know, shortly after the Connecticut shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, a group of avid knitters started a group on Ravelry, which is a kind of knitting crochet site, called 600 Monsters Strong for Connecticut. So they're making stuffed animals to send to every student at the school, and there are certain restrictions, like they can't be red, and there are a couple other ones. They have to be a certain size. And so Sarah has now, with all of her time off from work, for the holidays, have made 4 different monsters.
I was going to say, I think I saw, shots of 4 of them.
This one's the newest one,
I like him.
which will be posted soon. I took a picture of it tonight for her to post on her Ravelry. So they're very cute.
They're cute.
So I just wanted to give a plug for that project because that's a really, really good cause. And there are other monster groups that make little monsters for domestic violence victims. So she's probably going to continue with it. And actually, I think it was for her birthday. Last year, I got her a book of knitted monsters. So it's kind of, she's been able to put that book to use. I was like, this is the best present you could have ever gotten.
No, why? Just, there happened to be a book about knitted monsters. Okay.
Yeah. So that's been our week.
Shaun, did you do anything else besides host a party and nurse your mother back to health? And
no,
moving?
I do want to mention when we were discussing Christmas gifts last week, and I didn't intentionally do it. I was so excited about my little ray gun, my pew pew, that I forgot to mention that Keith and Sarah got me Mask of Mandraga.
Oh, yeah.
For, and I
wondered
felt
why you
bad
didn't say
about that.
I thought maybe you just didn't like your gift.
No, I do. Well, you know what you know what that means.
It was shiny.
Did they text you and ask you what you did or didn't have?
No, I called him.
No, he called me.
Because I knew his collection was much bigger than yours.
Unfortunately, he called me when I wasn't at home, so I couldn't go through these. So he started reading. I said, read me off what they have there, and I'll tell you whether or not I have it. That'll be easier. But you know what this means now? With Mask of Mandraga, the only Tom Baker Sarah Jane that I don't have is Terror of the Zygons.
Ooh. See now, Shaun, that's why you need this program that I've been trying to push on you. All
Which
of my
is-
Doctor Who are cataloged on my phone with me at all times.
Yeah, I know.
But he was on the phone with me.
The nice thing is, I can
could've-
use this as my barcode scanner now, and this as a barcode scanner now, so you don't have to have a peripheral scanner.
This is the weird thing.
Or you know that software I found, Inventory.
Yeah,
It's free. You
Sure,
don't
if
have to
wanna
pay
go
for it.
simple.
my problem
It's free.
is that I'm first of
Not
all, I've already
fancy.
paid for the
Still can do
lifetime
barcode.
license for DVD Profiler, and I love it. I absolutely love the program. Here's the problem: is it's not Android compatible. Now it is on the iPad. Explain that one.
So get the iPad and then use your iPad version.
But then I'd have to have the iPad with me.
But that's easier because then you can scan them at least, right? You can
Yeah.
use it.
Oh, yeah, there you
Remember, though, I went out and bought a barcode scanner.
Oh, you did. I forgot
did.
about that. That's right. Well, can you get it on your Mac? That's the other thing.
No.
See, there's your problem.
I
You
know.
bought this Lifetime thing. You're absolutely in love with it. And the only thing that you can use it on is an old Windows PC,
Which I still
that
have.
barely works for you
Yeah,
anymore.
I know.
And you went and bought it. You're a fool.
I
Yes,
bought
you
that
are
before I
foolish.
had all this
You are
other
a fool.
stuff.
It's, yeah.
Time to upgrade, Shaun. Time to upgrade.
I just
Or
keep
there's
waiting.
Data Pro, which will let you do your books and your games, all for free.
See, that one's kind of cool. I like the idea of being able to do other stuff, but I just...
It's limited, though. There's
I like
both of
this
those
program.
programs are limited because I looked into them.
I haven't had any problems with
Oh,
Data
really?
Pro.
There's like 100 limit or something like that on one of the... yeah, I think it's that
If
one.
any of our listeners have
DVD
massive
Profiler,
collections...
if it's the demo,
Yeah,
you can,
well,
you
that
can
one
only...
is, yeah.
That's the one I've got.
Well, I'm just saying the demo. If
But you
don't pay,
paid. You
if
paid
you don't
for
pay
it.
No,
for
I
it,
paid for the
Well,
license.
I
You
looked
can
at
only
another one,
back
and I
up.
thought
It was a
that
lifetime
one
for
that
only
had
$30, though.
had a
I mean,
well, see, you've got your money's worth already.
How much was it?
30.
Yeah, you've definitely got your money's worth already. Good Lord, move on. $30. Good Lord.
I like the program.
The nice thing about
Collector's Movies is just as comprehensive and better. So
Collector's Movies. I'll look it up.
The nice thing about Datacrow is, like with the books, I was able to just type in a title and was actually able to find a book that didn't have a barcode.
Oh, wow.
That was it's that.
Well, I
old.
can do that with.
It was my
Collectors.
grandma's.
Now I have it on the other one, but Collectors you can do that. Just type it in. I'll look it up if it doesn't have a barcode.
Nice.
But that's for movies. I don't run any collectors. I don't have that many books to run that kind of stuff. And my games. My game shelf is only 2 shelves long. So.
I figured if I'm going to try to get one for books too, might as well go.
Yeah.
It actually does CDs too. So if I wanted to, I could inventory my CDs.
If I was doing that's just it. I've got.
There are CDs.
I've got
still have
thousands
CDs.
You still have
of CDs,
CDs?
but I'm doing away with them because
or records.
Yeah. The only reason I keep some of them is because you have to have them in order to have them ripped. So.
It's true.
Yeah, if I was still doing comic books, I would do a collection, but I quit collecting those years ago, with the exception of the 1 or 2 title.
What's the name of this?
All right, let's move on.
What's the name of this program?
Datacrow?
Collectors. Well, yeah, go with the free one if it works for you. If it's got enough.
Collectors with a Z.
Content. Yeah, with a Z.
Then the demo had a limit. You could only for collectors. You could only input like
Yes,
100.
the demo did. Yes, that's correct. That's why I paid for the license.
Yeah,
online.
Profiler. You could only back up to 100.
That's
you
right,
can input
just
as
back
many,
up.
but you can
And it's
only
good on
back
a
up so
Mac.
much.
Collectors is, yes.
Collectors is good on Mac.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got it on this device, and this device. So, and I really only use it on this device because it's always with me, and I can use the barcode, the camera's barcode scanner.
You know,
I
I've
can't
noticed though
believe
is
we've sat here and talked about inventory software for as long as we have.
it's probably a
Looking for
much
some
bigger
good
deal.
software. Everybody has their own.
Yeah.
It was probably a much bigger deal when I had money.
Yeah,
You know, when you don't have money, you don't
That's
buy
true.
anything. You
That's
don't
a good
need to have the
point.
inventory.
Maybe you ought to go with Keith's.
What's sad is I still use DVD Profiler in addition to Datacrow and my
Why?
Word documents. Redundancies.
Backups of backups.
OCD.
I'm going to start
Say
coming over to
OCD.
his new DVD shelf and moving things out of alphabetical
It's
order.
up.
It's up. I built it.
Holy cow, you did.
And all my DVDs don't fit.
So now you need another one.
No, well, this will work great because I have all the DVDs on it, and then I have the Doctor Who separated, and then my games on the...
All 10 of them.
Hey, don't knock him.
11.
He's getting there.
Yeah, but he's been doing this for far too long to have so few.
Quite honestly, I'm impressed that he has that many.
Yeah, actually, I am too.
I'm impressed
Especially
that
since he's not a completist.
I'm impressed that he has that many, and he doesn't yet own all of
'Cause-
New Who.
I watch
Well, yeah,
I watch a
there's
crummy
that.
episode of Doctor Who. The difference between him and I is he watches a crummy episode of Doctor Who, he's not going to get it. I watch a cruddy episode of Doctor Who. I may not have liked it, but I'm still going to end up getting it someday.
And I have a decent list of who I want to get.
Yeah.
Still, so...
Well, that's what you do too. You just get the ones you like
And,
the best
like-
first, and then eventually
Like
you'll sit
5
there and go,
Doctors, I
I can't believe that I'm missing so many
Christmas
numbers
lists.
in between this one and this one. I should just really fill those in.
And you add it to Christmas and birthday
Yeah,
lists,
right,
and
exactly.
that's how I got 5 Doctors, and
So there you go.
that's how it'll continue.
Did you get the 5 Doctors for Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I thought
Did
I
you
mentioned
say
that.
last
I
week?
thought I mentioned that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Glenn wasn't
Sarah's
paying
parents,
attention.
Again, I
to
Sarah's
that.
parents got it for me. For those that don't remember, like Glenn.
I don't listen to you.
He
Not
doesn't
that I didn't
listen to
remember.
us.
I didn't hear you at all. All right. What's next on the schedule? No, wait. We're no
Schedule?
myself.
Well,
Wow.
next week we're doing.
News. A bit of sad news
News.
this week.
Sir Richard Rodney Bennett passed away at the age of 76.
For the listeners, tell them who that is.
For the listeners, he wrote film and TV scores and the incidental music for the 1964 story The Aztecs being among them, which the special edition is going to be released in March.
Oh, that's right. I'm glad I haven't picked that one up yet.
So, our good friend Dr. Phil did an episode on the Aztecs a while ago, so go look in his archives for that and hear him praise Richard Rodney Bennett's
That podcast is The Adventures
of Time, Space, and Music.
Be sure and check it out.
Yes, we'll include a link in the show notes.
Yes, we will. All right, now on to... Oh, I'm excited. I am excited.
Why are you excited, Glenn?
Well, because we're about to do feedback, and I hear there's a little surprise for us.
Potentially, maybe.
What'll be a bigger surprise if he remembers it next week?
It'll be a bigger surprise if I remember it this week. I was toying with the idea of...
Wait, how long did you have to work on this?
Well, when you compose, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. I've been toying with the idea of a new feedback song. I've actually been toying with it. I've been toying with it for quite a while.
Now, this is, again, getting my hopes up. Last week it was, I'm having a New Year's Eve party. You're coming. Yeah, I'll come. Great. And then later in the podcast, he says, well, we hope we're ready by then. And now this week he says, I'm going to debut our new podcast or our new feedback song tonight. And I get all excited, and he says, well, I've been working on it. And
well,
like it's not done. And
no, it's done.
He doesn't want you to get your expectations too high.
Too late.
I've been toying with it for a while and decided that I would debut it on New Year's.
Okay,
so it technically wasn't going to be ready until next week's episode.
I got you.
So it might have some rough edges.
It's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah,
still.
because this would actually been our end of the year show.
It's not ready for Carnegie Hall, but,
not quite ready for Carnegie Hall.
Not quite ready for prime time.
All right. None of us are.
All right, ready?
Yes, ready.
Feedback.
Boom, 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 boom. Feedback.
I like it.
Yeah, I got my expectations. Was it like the 2001 Space Odyssey version?
I wanted something epic.
That would have been cool like 11 years ago.
13.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
12.
13. No, yeah, 12.
Yeah.
12 now.
Weigh in with your thoughts.
Boom, 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 boom. Feedback. I would have let it sink in a little bit. I'm not sold.
I would have been a lot more impressed if he would have...
Don't encourage him either, by the way.
Edited the two together, like recorded it and played it with the actual 2001 music, and then recorded his voice saying feedback and added all sorts of effects.
Started
to
with
it.
feedback, and then did the boom, 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 boom. Yeah,
I don't have to.
Feedback.
I don't have to explain my
art to you. Put some flair on there.
Jazz
Expand
hands.
it a little bit. Oh, okay. All right. So that moves us on to feedback. Who's first?
First up is Andrew. Comment question. So a companion we saw die several thousand years in the future reappears in the 19th century. But enough about Strax. Just wanted to say I hope you're all well and enjoying the festive season as much as I enjoy listening to your latest podcast. Actually, I wanted to send some informative yet hugely entertaining gift, but couldn't think of anything that would fit in email. I did write up my thoughts.
Sorry.
I did write up my thoughts on the snowman, but the piece was so negative at times, and at times pedantic, I decided to spare you it until you get so desperate for feedback you start reading out Nigerian spam emails again. So when that day comes... Seriously, though, Traveling the Vortex remains one of the best Doctor Who podcasts. Good, clear sound from all three hosts, different perspectives, and always an entertaining review, even if there are a lot of talk about guttering before it. On the subject of Friday Night Who,
he might change his mind after today's podcast. Well, you got on a database software tangent.
I still think that's important information for people to have.
That is valuable.
And then he's talking about good, clean sound, and we're experimenting with a new microphone tonight.
Well,
and
maybe it's even better clean sound.
And then we're going to give I think we're all going to give a very positive review of the Snowman, and he obviously didn't like it. So
it's kind of
no, he said at times.
At times.
At times.
Okay.
I had complaints with it too.
What? It's a perfect episode.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, keep
Shaun
going.
had a face.
Shaun had a face. Do you guys mind if I go to Sonic real quick and come back? I am starving. Oh my god, why didn't
Yeah, go to Sonic. Bring me back some.
I ate Subway tonight too, like a big old foot.
Keith and I will continue with feedback.
Okay.
You make a Sonic run.
Sonic.
Back after the
Bring me back some cheddar bites.
How how's that for? Yeah,
How were the wonton cheese?
they were okay. Well, because of you, we put them in the oven. Have you know? You could have stayed because they were just.
I told you didn't have to do it. I was leaving.
Yeah, and Mel was like, "Well, I like them crunchy." No microwaving those bad boys. No, they were okay. They were just they were.
Well, they'd been worse. In the
yeah. I mean,
microwave.
the problem was they were cream cheese wontons. Well, that was it. It was
just cream cheese.
just cream cheese.
And
There was no real seasoning or anything.
right because there's no.
I don't know if
there's
I don't know if I was expecting
There's
crab
no meat?
rangoon and got my hopes
Maybe
up,
so,
which is
yeah,
impossible.
yeah.
But there was nothing. It was just cream cheese, and so it was kind of
Not even flavored.
yeah.
Ew,
It was
that's
maybe,
just gross.
Maybe soy sauce would have livened this up a little bit or something.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Andrew. We got to wait for that.
On the subject of Friday Night Who, have you considered, rather than trying to watch an entire 6-episode story, watching the first half of one story, then the first half of another? That way you could get 2 weekly cliffhangers and not have so much of the one thing
Wait, what?
in one go, with the concluding halves to be watched on the next Friday. It could make for some interesting pairings like the Deadly Assassin and the Ultimate Foe. Anyways, regards as always.
I just want to
Andrew.
make sure I
No,
understand
wait
what
a
he's
minute.
talking about here. He wants us to watch like the first 3 episodes of Invasion of Time, and then the next week not finish it.
No, not next week.
No. We watched the first 3 episodes of The Invasion of Time, and then we watched the first 3 episodes of Ambassadors of Death the same night.
Back to back.
And then the following week, we watched the last 3 episodes of Invasion of Time and the last 3 episodes of The Ambassadors of Death.
I can honestly say I've never thought about doing it that way.
What would be the benefit of that? That way you go
It could make some interesting pairings.
2 weekly cliffhangers and not have so much of one thing to go.
It would change
In
your
one
pace.
go.
Here's an idea.
I would be so confused. We'd be trying to review that the next week, and I'd be going, "Wait, no, that wasn't that. Well, that was now that story. And then that was how the other story."
Let's really make it interesting, okay?
No,
We'll get a 4-part story, and we'll watch episode 1 from a Hartnell, episode 2 from a Trouton, episode 3 from a Pertwee,
Spread it out over a month.
and then we'll conclude with
no, we don't
the key to
conclude
time.
because then you go back to the beginning, and then you do episode 2 from Trout and episode 3 from Pertwee. Or no, whatever.
Andrew, I think our limited brain capacities are not quite at the same level as yours, and we would be unable to keep track of what was happening in a Friday Night Who setting if we were to split it up.
Indubitably.
Now that we've gone to the anything over 5 parts gets split in half, which people seem to like. The shorter times. I'm finding that I'm having difficulty. I have to take notes. I have difficulty remembering from week to week if it's something that we're going to review. So
That's the stroke.
what?
Andrew finishes
am I?
out his email with P.S. Sad news about Gary Anderson and Sir Patrick Moore, men who made television that much better.
Agreed. Why? I liked Patrick Moore.
Who are Gary Anderson and Sir Patrick Moore?
Sir Patrick Moore was the astronomer announcer who died. We covered his death last week.
Gary Anderson was
We
the
did?
creator of Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember Gary Anderson.
Thunderbirds are
We
go.
covered Sir Patrick Moore?
Wow, you don't remember anything from last week, do
Wow.
you?
Was I here last week?
I don't think so.
I
At
guess
this
I was
point.
quite back from vacation
Yeah,
last
apparently
week.
not. You were still on holiday. Yeah, he was. You know who Sir Patrick Moore is?
No, I don't. That's
Remember
why I'm asking.
what was the episode that he was in?
He was an astronomer.
Yeah.
But he was in
The 11th Hour.
when they were talking about the unprecedented phenomena. Blah blah blah.
I do remember. Yes,
Yeah,
he was
that's
one of the guys on the
one of the
television.
guys on the television. Yeah, we covered it then.
He died December 9th.
I still didn't know who he was then either. But Gary Anderson, yes,
He
I
was
do
no,
remember Thunderbirds. Yeah.
I mean,
I watched some of that when I was a kid, but
well, I'm not going to say it.
I wasn't a big fan because the marionettes thing was kind of bizarre.
I own
those-
Thunderbirds. Is it Thunderbirds Go or
The movie?
yeah, Thunderbirds the movie, whatever the name of it is.
Well,
I couldn't get
there was
into it.
Thunderbirds the movie, which is a remake and should
No,
not be
not
watched.
that. Although, do you know who directed that?
No.
Are you ready? Are you sitting down?
Gary Anderson?
No.
Joe Johnson, Patrick Swayze. That's not who I was thinking.
I
Why did Patrick Swayze? What?
Also dead. No, it wasn't Patrick Swayze.
I don't know where that came from. That's not who I was thinking of.
Jonathan Frakes.
Who's the guy
Really?
that did
Yeah.
this? And
James Cameron.
where did Patrick Swayze go?
Okay, now wait. Okay, hold on.
Wow.
We have some serious issues here if you're confusing James Cameron and Patrick Swayze.
I'm having a stroke.
No wonder he didn't like any of James Cameron's movies. He thought they were Patrick Swayze movies.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe we need to let him go get some food. He's starting to black out from hunger.
Oh yeah. Was James Cameron? Wasn't he that guy in Dirty Dancing? Roadhouse?
I loved it when he ripped that guy's throat out. James Cameron is a bad man.
Wow, okay.
Our British listeners probably know Patrick more better than we do because he did a lot of the British television Apollo 11 coverage. That's kind of where I think he built
He was the
his-
British Walter Cronkite.
Cronkite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the British Patrick Swayze.
Okay. who directed you were
Jonathan
before
Frakes.
Jonathan
Frakes, the Star Trek guy.
Yeah. William
Who
Randolph.
recently directed a episode of Castle, which was really good.
Yeah, he was really good.
Well, he directed First Contact, didn't he?
He did. He directed First Contact and Insurrection.
He's
and
done quite a few directors.
Insurrection,
Clock
isn't that great?
Stoppers.
First
That
Contact.
kind of makes sense on
I
tone.
loved his direction in that.
I would agree.
Insurrection. Not so much.
Insurrection had plot problems more than directing problems.
Really did. It really did. And then Nemesis was just the Wrath of God.
He didn't direct that one.
With Tom Hardy.
Now, Sir Patrick Moore, I know of Sir Patrick Moore. He was no Jack Horkheimer, though.
Ah, yes. Star Hustler.
Yeah. Which was always on,
Right
depending,
after Doctor
depending on
Who.
the length of the episode.
Right after Doctor
Right after Doctor Who on Friday nights.
And keep looking up. He died too, didn't he?
He did.
Like, a couple years ago.
Yeah. I remember being sad when I heard that, too.
I was, yeah.
You know who forgot, or who Shaun forgot died? The clerk.
Yeah. He wasn't on last night.
Yeah.
Even though I know we
forget.
talked about it on the podcast.
There was somebody I saw in the obit we watched, like off the that I had forgotten. I can't. I said it. I said,
always-
was that he really died this year? And you went, yeah.
This is turning into a real 10 o'clock newscast.
It is, yeah. So let's move on from
with
the
more
obits and go to.
Thanks for your email, Andrew.
We can always count on Odd Duck Phil to bring us back up.
Yes.
Duck Phil writes, comment, comment, automated laser monkeys, scalpel mines, and acid. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Hoopekins. Hope everyone's been enjoying the holidays. Had a lot of fun listening to Glenn's Disney World account. Oh, a lot of fun, huh?
Yeah.
Glad you told those stories.
Well, there's one. The rest of them I'm bored, I'm sure.
Although it was bittersweet being reminded of all the stuff I didn't get to do when I went. Oh, well, I'm sure we'll go again. Oh, at Universal, did you ride the Despicable Me ride?
I did, because that's over at Studios, and we only did Ireland.
You only did
Islands of
Islands.
Adventure, yeah.
Okay, on to the Christmas episode. Number 1, The Memory Worm. Possibly the funniest scene I have ever seen in New Who. I know it's an old joke. We all knew it was going to happen, but it didn't diminish the humor at all for me. Number 2, Strax. Moffat either needs to make him a companion or he needs a spin-off show. I think something akin to Mr. Belvedere, because I dig him as the butler. He needs a giant bowler hat, though. Which I want you to know, Phil, is I've now seen The Snowman 3 times, and I read your email after the first, and so every single time since then, there's something missing, and I've determined it's the bowler hat. Strax needs the
I thought
bowler
maybe
hat.
you needed the Mr. Belvedere scene playing in the background or something.
I think we need the music. All kidding aside, I know some may be critical of how much of a caricature he's become, but he was so much fun. Number 1, The Memory Worm. Possibly the funniest scene I've ever seen in New Who. I know it's an old joke. We all knew it was going to happen, but it didn't diminish the humor at all for me. Number 2, really liking Jenna Louise Coleman. I think she and Smith work so well together. I can't wait to see where Moffat is going with the character and the storyline. Number 1, The Memory Worm. Possibly the funniest scene I've ever seen in New Who. I know it's an old joke. We all knew it was going to happen, but it didn't diminish the humor at all for me. Number 2, I can't wait for more Who. Sadly, I'm going to have to. Bah humbug. P.S. Odd Duck Phil.
P.S.
Why did I read that way? Odd Duck Phil. Spoilers. P.S. There's a P.S. here. Odd Duck Phil. P.S. I don't remember mentioning it, but I really liked the memory worm bit. Way to ruin that joke, Collins. Thanks, Phil.
Wow. That was good, Phil.
I don't know if I agree about Strax. I like him.
We're going to talk about If we're reviewing the episode, you don't get to talk about it yet.
Next up, Holly.
Keith, it's okay to poke the bear, but don't poke a hungry bear. That's the line.
Yeah.
All right. Holly writes. There's no... the Snowman, I guess, is her tagline. Hey guys, greatly enjoyed the Master Archive podcast. I have to say that I really enjoyed this Christmas special. Loved all the scenes with Ginny, Vastra, and Strax. Was laughing non-stop at the Doctor and his reactions to some of the things that Strax had done and or said. I'm really liking Clara, and I feel that there's a whole lot more to the character than what we've seen so far. When she was working in the bar, I was rather surprised we didn't hear any music from Carmen. If memory serves, Carmen was a barmaid in the opera. I really like the new opening sequence. I'm so looking forward to part 2 of Series 7. I'll wrap this up here. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the Christmas special. Holly from Wisconsin. Absolutely.
Thank you, Holly.
Sentiments, exactly. But I'm not going to dwell on them because
We're going to review
it
that
later.
Next up is Jessica,
We'll explain later.
who joined us for Friday Night Who this week.
She did.
She writes, comment, question.
I was there, I know. You looked at me like...
Well, that's our normal response is, oh, somebody joined us for Friday Night Who?
When somebody else didn't.
What is a parking pass doing here?
It's Shaun's.
Well,
Okay, that didn't answer the question of what it's doing.
It was
there.
in my car.
I didn't say whose parking pass is laying here.
It was in
I
my
said,
car.
What is this parking pass doing?
It was in my car.
Keith is returning it.
Okay.
Because I have my
So-
own.
The answer to that question just sparks even more questions. Why was Shaun's parking pass
Because we were
in your
roommates.
car?
It used to
So
Okay.
this is a parking
Okay.
pass to here.
Technically,
Yes.
it was James's parking pass.
It used to formerly be James's. James moved out.
That- I
Keith
didn't-
moved
they-
in, so I
they
just gave it.
They've started parking passes now.
Not
They
that they
did
check
when I
them.
lived here.
Not that they check them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't even have them when I lived here.
I'm
There was
gonna
no parking
put
pass
it on my
whatsoever.
bicycle and see if they say anything.
Parking pass. You turn that in when you get rid of your apartment finally.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, is it? You're done
I'm
tomorrow?
done.
Oh.
I have to change some light bulbs, and I'm done.
Oh.
Better not
Really?
be
So
75
they found
watts.
somebody to rent it.
No,
No, he's just out.
I'm just out.
now
But
now
you
they
still
can.
haven't given back your apartment. You're still paying rent on it. That's what I'm saying. When the apartment ceases to be in your name,
As
then
of
you'll
to,
get
as
that
of
back.
tomorrow, I'm going to go and replace all of my curlicue light bulbs with their generic light bulbs because I
Yes.
held on to them.
Right.
I'm keeping my curlicues, and then I'm going down to the office and I'm turning in my keys and my parking pass. Now, whether or not I still need to continue to pay for the apartment after that is
determine whether they rent it out or
Yes.
not. Yes, I know.
But-
what I'm saying is, it's still, well, you can turn that in tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that apartment is still leased in your name.
Yes,
until
no,
they
I understand that.
let you out of it.
And here's the really downside of that is that because I've been there for almost 5 years, the apartment is now so out of date compared to some of these others.
yeah.
I'm sure that they're going to take their time remodeling
I'm
it,
sure they will, yeah.
so nobody will be renting it in a hurry.
But maybe they'll be glad that they'll be able to do that. So.
And now charge higher rent for the
Well,
apartment.
yes, exactly.
Maybe we'll
Which
find
they
out.
would have done
Maybe they'll do it
regardless.
quicker so they can get somebody in there to get that rent.
Well, yeah.
I'm hoping that'll be
Because it would
Maybe.
go up regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
So Jessica was at Friday Night Who this week?
Jessica was at
at
Friday
Friday
Night
Night
Who
Who this week. Comment, question. Hey, hi guys. Remember me?
Hi, Jessica. Yes.
I wrote in a while back letting you know I had heard all the wild speculation that was going on during the astronaut episodes, and that when New Who came on, I was going to place you on hiatus until I thought I might have figured it out. Well, I've thrown caution to the wind, decided to stick around and throw a bit of my own speculation into the pot. But first, feminism. Without going point for point in the author's article, I agree with some things and disagree with others. There are definitely themes to Moffat's writing, and I think the imprinting she is talking about comes from his desire to write the fairy tale, not place women in a lower standing. Fairy tales have their own issues with feminism, of course, with less than 100 years before such thought caused hysteria in places like Salem. But I think Moffat's intent with mirroring them comes from wanting to give the audience a familiar place to cling to, while he plots his way into madness. Like with many of these things, I think it is most important to infer intent before throwing these labels around. I just don't see any malintent in his writing.
Amen. Oh my gosh. Like, we were going to talk about this after we reviewed The Snowman, and she pretty much hit on all of my points. Very good. Hear, hear.
I would strongly agree also.
Yep.
Any comment?
I think once again Glenn managed to take a nugget of what was in what I was trying to say and blow it into a very wide-ranging proportion of alternate universe comments.
You came to the podcast, was it last week?
Last week.
Yeah.
You
with
remember
this
that.
article, and you said you guys have to read this article. This woman is absolutely on task
No, I did
with
not.
everything she said.
He didn't quite say that.
What?
No, I didn't.
He said he could see some of
I'm
the
certain
points
that
she
he
was
said
making.
that.
I did not. What I said was...
He said that she's absolutely on point with this whole article. I agree with her 100% wholeheartedly, and I'm not going to mention the present that Keith and Sarah got for me.
Well, you've got me there. He's right. No, I said that there is a lot of feminists out there who are upset with Moffat.
I just figured I'd give you a
Yeah, I
reason
know
to
you-
defend yourself. I didn't do anything, and he started getting all defensive before I even said
You sent
anything.
a text
so I
message
figured I
is
better
what you
throw
did.
it out.
But no, I know that there's a lot of people who are upset with Moffat and his writing and his treatment for women and characters, which I don't see. But having read that article last week, I can start to understand where, hopefully, some of these people are coming from. I would very much prefer to believe that they're upset for reasons of this nature versus reasons of just being feminists and upset at Moffat, which is, quite honestly, the way a lot of new Who fans seem to be. I hate it. Why? Because.
It's not what I know.
It's not what I know.
It's not even so much
They just
New
don't-
Who fans,
yeah.
because you've got a contingency of people
Well,
who've only seen New Who that are anti-Matt Smith fans. They're anti-Moffat
yeah.
Matt Smith.
Well, there's a-
so they like
their
the
doctor
Eccleston, or they
changed.
tolated Eccleston. They're in love with
Or haven't
Tennant,
even
and
seen
then
Eccleston.
became
There's somebody on Instagram sent me a petition to sign to bring back David Tennant, and I didn't get into a flame war with this person, but
He might have been 12 as well.
but I just thought to myself,
We all remember the great flame war of 2011 between Shaun and a 12-year-old.
not my finest hour, but get over it and move on. And it's just how it is. So, if you're upset over something and you can back it up with some facts or some specific instances of this, and this, then it's like, oh, okay, I can kind of start to see where you're coming from. If you're just coming at it with, no, I don't like it. I don't have a reason. I don't have to tell you.
I would
this is
almost
still
be
on the-
different.
So-
If this is still on the schedule, though, we'll talk about this after The Snowman. But I do want to say that the author of that...
Let's just talk it out now since
the
we're
writer
spun
of that
off.
article went looking for reasons, went looking for issues with these characters that Moffat has written. She has an issue with the way that the series is being written now, and I understand that, and I completely agree with Jessica here when she sees, because I do see it too, the imprinting topic.
I agree,
That is
especially
absolutely
now.
right.
Well, yeah.
But I also agree with it too, Moffat's style of fairy tale writing, and that is very, very typical of fairy tale writing. The way he does it is an old gimmick. It's an old way of doing things. George Lucas does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are other authors out there and screenwriters that do the same thing. They go to those old tried and true things. What I have a problem with the author in this article, or the writer of this article, is that she seems to be going back and looking for. She talks about Silence in the Library and how Donna is shoved aside in order to bring in a character that Moffat wants, to have of his own. And that's true. But in that episode, both River is even though she was imprinted upon, yes, a very strong character, and she's the one that basically is the hero of that story, if you ask me. Donna is not relegated to some, side story that has nothing to do with anything. There is a very deep sub-story going on there as well.
And character development for Donna.
Absolutely. All the way back to she talked about the first one that Moffat wrote, which was even further back.
Empty Child
Dr. Dances.
Relegating Rose to
number one. This little girl that had given up her mothership of her son and was acting as a sister in a mother figure. Again, another very strongly written character. And I didn't feel that Rose, even though she was a little subjugated to the drooling over Captain Jack, it wasn't beyond her character to be kind of that character. But she still...
Especially because it was only, 2 or 3 episodes earlier that she was drooling over Adam.
Exactly.
Well, yeah,
so
absolutely.
she was still a very, very strong character in there, that as well.
And never mind the relegating her to not major part of the plot. What about the episode set in the 60s where she loses her face?
Yeah, which is not a Moffat story at all.
No, there are so many instances, especially of Rose, not living up to everyone's expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And becoming completely teary over the Doctor. That's not the strong Rose everyone remembers.
Right.
Especially in Christmas Invasion. Oh, he changed his face. He doesn't love me. Boo hoo hoo hoo.
Right.
That's a lot of what I see of Rose.
She points to the Blink episode, which she talks about how the Doctor and Martha both are put on and Martha's hardly there at all for that story. There was a production reason for her not being there and the Doctor not being there because it's what's considered a Doctor Light story. They went off and they shot this while Freema Adjerman and David Tennant were shooting another episode so they can get enough episodes into a season and still have a Christmas episode. And so they shoot 2 episodes within the season so they can still have 13 episodes in the season together. So that's why that happens. It wasn't any design of Moffat to put them on the back burner and focus on an entirely new character who, in the meantime, was another strong female character. And it was only the female character in that one that was that is the focus of that story. You've got all these other side characters going on, but another very strong female character.
Which is more to be said than the first Dr. Light and Companion Light story.
Which is Love and Monsters.
Which doesn't have a strong female character.
Exactly.
Focuses on a man, and Rose is still relegated to the background.
And a relationship with the mom trying to get information. I mean, with Jackie trying to get information. I mean, kind of how sleazy that is. And I mean, he obviously is remorseful for that, and then Rose slaps him down for it. I mean, it's just... she went looking for things that just clearly aren't there. And I think it's based on her distaste with the newest series for whatever reason. Amy, yes, she's got the right idea there that Amy, at a young age, is imprinted upon, and she's wanting to live this fairy tale. But that's the structure that Moffat's going by. I think Jessica hits it exactly on the head here. That's just the way that Moffat writes, and it's comfortable, and a lot of people enjoy that.
And I saw a review of The Snowman saying that Moffat's been trying to write the dark fairy tale, and this is when he finally succeeds. So it's something obviously other people recognize, the fairy tale story, and some think he hasn't succeeded until now because of The Snowman.
Well, and I take issue with the idea that, in a way, that this is a new idea. The feminists are just now getting up in arms over the way women characters have been treated in Doctor Who. Because let's be honest, you go back, the show's been on for 50 years, and the role of the companion has kind of always been to prop up the Doctor and make him look good. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And you can go back and you can look, and there have always been some stronger than other characters. Look at Susan and Barbara from the very beginning. Barbara is a strong character. She is a strong female character. Now, yes, she is a teacher, which is seen as a nurturing female role.
If you go looking for that.
If you really want to pin that down. And then Susan was a child. So they could be, I could understand they could be upset by that. But look at Zoe. I mean, Zoe was a computer programmer and a math whiz and a genius. And didn't take any of the Doctor's
and often was on par or on level with the Doctor from time to time.
Look at Liz Shaw. I mean, a very, very strong character. Look at Sarah Jane, investigative journalist who, not only battled trouble but frequently went looking for it. So
but peppered in there, we had the Jo Grants.
You did have the Jo Grants. You did have the
But as we discovered, Jo Grant has a great arc where she becomes the strong female character that
I wouldn't say strong, but she becomes stronger.
Well, yeah.
There are degrees of strong, but you know, and if you
Compared
limit
to
it
where
to
she
just new
starts,
series stuff,
Agreed.
you know, yes, if you limit it to just new series companions, yes. I mean, Rose. Everybody talks about Rose being strong. Rose was 19.
So she was in love with this man. Everything
imprint,
she did was out of love.
I mean, think about it. The imprint. How many of us were very impressionable at 19? I mean, you know, come on.
Sure.
You know, Martha.
And that was set up pre-Moffat.
Yes. Martha, we've all talked about, we thought Martha kind of got the short end of the stick as a companion. She just did.
And it wasn't until she accepted her role as companion and friend of the Doctor that she started to become strong.
Which was almost more of a failing on her part.
Well,
if you really want to,
she should have recognized that sooner.
Yeah,
but
when it comes down to it.
When it comes down to it,
it's the idea of revisiting the falling in love with the Doctor.
So I like I said, I stand by Moffat. I stand by what I've said. But I think this was an interesting. The way this article was written, even if as you indicated that she went looking for things specifically to nitpick on, I still think it opens a doorway into a different mindset for why some of the people are upset over some of the things that they have, and I can kind of understand it a little bit better now. And I agree with the imprinting. Well, if you want to nitpick on these other characters, you know, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're quite so there. But the imprinting in particular is something that Moffat has very strongly from day one put into his stories. And it's something that even in the books, you know, when the books that we've read, there's always a line about he didn't know why, but he trusted this man implicitly. You know, and that kind of, well, it's because of the Doctor's charisma, which comes across on screen, but in print is a little harder. So what do? You put that line in there.
Right.
But
those aren't Moffat books.
Those aren't Moffat books.
No.
So I think that's something that's just kind of been carried on with, that comes with the mystique of what we've all come to expect.
It's the reverence of the man.
Yes. And the idea of imprinting isn't limited to Moffat. Love and Monsters kind of starts or continues that idea some.
It certainly does, because everybody in Linda is looking for the Doctor because they have had some sort of contact with him. So
I think it's just an idea predominantly explored in New Who because the Doctor is becoming so prominent on Earth. There's bound to be people that remember him. And what about the rest of the universe? I mean, he's been gallivanting for 1,000 years. People are going to remember him, and he's eventually going to run back into those people. The universe isn't that big.
Right.
It's only the universe. It's only time, all of time and space.
The line of the night right there. The universe isn't that big.
We're obviously relegated to Earth most of the time anyways.
Maybe going...
all of time, all of space. I'm bound to bump into a few people I know from time to time.
Have you seen the meme that's been going around of Tom Hiddleston? And it's shots of Tom Hiddleston with text and shots of Matt Smith from the 11th Hour. And it's Tom Hiddleston as Stormy, all grown up.
Oh, I have seen that one.
But I think this goes along with what you're saying. I think that the only thing that I appreciate from that article is, even though I think she's completely wrong, she at least tries to justify, in what the way you're saying, she at least tries to justify why she has, and it's just not a, well, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I'm glad that it does that.
She thought it out well. She thought out why
she thought it
didn't.
out.
Yeah. Okay, she thought it out. She thought it through. Yes.
Yes, I give her that. So, Jessica, we apologize. We've hijacked your feedback back, but you were one of the first ones to comment on this, so we went with it.
She continues with, okay, on to the Snowman. New Who fans would... We New Who fans... I'm sorry, let me start this over. We new fans would love a step-by-step guide to classic references episode guide. Can someone out there make that a thing? I feel like in this story, as well as in The Doctor's Wife, I missed quite a few classic squee moments, and I love to enjoy them along with the rest of the classic fandom. Moving on...
Glenn, that's your project for this week. Get on that, will you?
Yeah.
We new fans would love a step-by-step guide to classic reference episode guide.
So
there are ones out there. I mean, you can go out and get, what is it? Is it Of Time? Is that the... That's the classic
This
Doctor Who
is
episode guide.
Well, she's talking about
references
when
in New
classic
Who.
when New Who references classic Who.
Like
Great Intelligence.
I see. She wants like a guide for.
This is where you should get excited.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. No, I don't know. Wow, that's quite an endeavor.
That's a daunting.
Well, if I had to go back and do all of it, yeah, that would be tough.
Well, just from news,
I don't know
2005 still.
You know, but that's still a lot.
That's what I'm saying. That's daunting.
Yeah,
I'm going to refer you to TARDIS Wiki.
yeah, no, absolutely. That's where I usually go if I didn't get to catch something. So.
Yeah, and usually they have a reference section on the episode you watched.
Right. Yes.
Which will then give you links.
It's really kind of the best. I don't know that there is a comprehensive one out there, but it's the best case-by-case basis for you're watching this episode, you can go look up this episode, and then it'll mention, oh, by the way, boom, 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 came from here. And it's like, okay. Which, I'll be honest, I had to look up for this one.
Yeah, it is the best. It's the best instance of cross-referencing that you can find at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And even into the novels, because there was one episode of Eccleston that references something that doesn't exist, and then somebody wrote a book about that reference.
Right. What was it you told me that there's a reference when they reference novels, and I didn't know what it was, and you said
Prose.
Prose. Yeah, I had no idea that's what that meant.
Oh.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I said prose.
Prose.
What does that stand for? You said that's just referencing literature. Oh, okay.
As opposed to poetry.
There isn't much of that on the TARDIS Wiki.
No.
Now, you have the encyclopedia, though, on the iPad.
I do have
don't
the
you?
encyclopedia.
Does that not have a cross-referenced, easily databased?
No, because the encyclopedia only covers events from the new series. So if there's something that references the old series, it's not always necessarily...
No footnotes, then, huh?
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. It's been a long time. In fact, they just updated. I just got an update the other day. So,
But they do allow when they mention previous episodes in New Who, it
yes,
does
within
allow
the
that.
it does cross-reference itself within its own
time stream.
Yeah. It will explain, like when the macro are mentioned, it will explain to you what the macro is. It won't necessarily explain to you when the Doctor encountered the macro last time in class.
Okay, I gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Moving on, Jessica says, I love Clara, but I don't trust her. I don't think it's her fault, but I feel like she's a plant, a mystery to distract the Doctor while the series' big bad goes about his/her/its plan. We know his enemies like to dissect his moves and plant traps, and they must have seen how he chased the Amy mystery across the universe. She knew every button to push, including Doctor Who, Why Run, Pond, smaller on the inside. And besides being gorgeous, seems to be the perfect companion. She was able to get him to come out of his shell to the point where he can't say no to her. Well, I know coming back out of his shell was going to be the point of the story, regardless of the companion. How she does it so easily just feels too smooth.
Wow, Jessica, that's very insightful. I hadn't thought about that perspective of it all.
The Doctor has
To ponder that a little bit.
never
Ponder.
The Doctor has never given a key so early, unless Classic Who contradicts me, which the key is kind of... They did it some in Old Classic, but not very often, right?
A little bit. Sarah got her own key.
Not every companion got a key.
No,
Not every companion got a
certainly
key.
not every
Although I'll be honest, that scene was so beautifully well done. My head has now retconned all 50 years of Who. That's how it happens. That every single companion that steps on board the TARDIS gets the key and the presentation and this moment, and it's glorious. Even though I know that's not how it happens, even though I've seen other instances where companions have gotten their keys, it doesn't matter. That's how it is from this point forward.
Didn't Five give Nisa a key? Not Nisa. Tegan a key when she came back?
I think he did.
Somehow I remember him handing her a key, but maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, memory cheats.
Is she some sort of clone being scattered about? And can that explain why she would say word for word what she did in Asylum? If this was all just to make us emotional saps is yet to be seen.
I'm betting on that.
But so far, that's how I'm approaching her.
That's again, very insightful. That's I haven't heard anybody even just kind of scouring the message boards recently. I haven't heard anybody kind of pose it that way. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to.
She sees through the charm.
I'll have to think about that a bit because I thoroughly went into it without that kind of expectation. I did the whole, she's just pushing all the buttons because I'm going to talk about it. I'll hold on. I was about to do what I kept chastising Keith for doing. Sorry.
Also, I can't quite get these two thoughts to mesh into one yet. But I think we have an explanation for the exploding TARDIS coming. I'm sure Moffat has not abandoned his story arc of the fall of the 11th, and we do have a few other puzzle pieces not yet placed on the board. What if she is some sort of echo, showing up at all the points the Doctor has been after the TARDIS explodes, because she was in the TARDIS at the time it exploded, but the TARDIS only explodes because of her presence, a la Bad Wolf-like paradox. I trust in Moffat enough to know that he won't just recycle a plot point, even one we love so much, to be the big reveal for the 50th. But with our very sketchy portrait of her, this seems to fit, for the time being at least.
Who are you, Jessica, and why are you making me think?
You hadn't read this one, huh?
No.
I've been pondering it since it came in, and I'll be honest, the Mobius strip that she's opened in my head, it's starting to drive me insane.
Maddening.
On a side note, some Googling reveals that this is a big bad we meet in another Snowman episode the second Doctor encountered, and this is chronologically canon before that story, which is why the conversation the Doctor has with Sally about how they will never have to worry about this villain makes it so amusing. Going forward, I don't think we've seen the last of that species either, although I don't know what to make of them yet. I'm sure others are going to fan-squee over the Sherlock Poppins references, the usual perfect costuming, and all the stunt casting, so I'll let you get on to those emails. I blabbed on long enough. Keep up the great conversations.
I kind of like blabbled. That's my word for the day, blabbled.
Jessica. P.S. You don't have to plug another podcast if you don't want to, but there's an all-female cast coming up,
coming up in January.
Coming up in January, with many of the more high-profile female fans out there called Verity.
Cool.
From what I understand, there has been a conversation at cons, etc., about not having a female voice to Doctor Who fandom, and they aim to fill that void.
Bravo. And Jessica, if there's any way you can get on this podcast and spout some of these theories, get on that podcast. That's fantastic. Good stuff.
The Verity podcast, as we record this, their review of the Snowmen hits tomorrow.
Okay, I'm going to put them in my...
oh, cool.
They did at episode 0, introducing themselves.
I am putting them in my feed.
They are ready to go.
I'll pimp another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially as one starting out.
Jessica, your email did make my brain melt. I really want to... I want you to know that. I think there's a lot of things, and I love the idea that you've nuggeted out there about the TARDIS explosion possibly happening, and maybe she's involved, or maybe she's just a side effect. Maybe that's why she is.
Ooh, side effect would be good.
That's why he keeps encountering her, because she's been splintered, kind of like the guy in
City of Death. Which I've seen some comments of, wait a minute, is this a retread of City of Death?
Is this it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool.
An update of it?
This is something else. We'll get there.
I'll get there.
Up next, Scott from Philly.
Scott from Philly writes, common question, happy holidays, Kansas crew. Great to hear about the Disney trip. That's 2. If you're keeping score at home, me 2, Glenn 0. The passing French
Hopefully we have
grade.
a lot more than 2 listeners.
The passing French grade, like we used to say, just another few credits until graduation. And the gifts. And what a gift this latest Christmas show was. Extremely ambitious and almost pulling it off perfectly. So much new, and yet nodding back to the classic series. The flash of the 11th Doctor's face in the opening credits. The new mix of the theme, roundels in the TARDIS control room. I just wanted Matt Smith's Victorian suit to have an opera cape. Moffat brought back the great intelligence in a great way, because I don't think the modern Who fans would accept guys in furry suits.
Yep.
Does anyone know if the snowman's growls were taken from the Yetis in Web of Fear?
Oh.
I thought that in my second viewing.
I'll be darned.
I just thought it was Ian McKellen.
It's cool.
They just had him go, grrr.
They recorded Ian McKellen as he slept. And he actually makes that
Does
noise.
anybody think that Ian McKellen will be making a return? As
I
the
sure
voice?
hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think that he's not only the voice of this, he's the voice of the Great Intelligence. I think that's why we got Ian McKellen for like half a dozen lines in this. I think because he's on contract to do some more for this series.
Oh, so you think the Great Intelligence will be making a return later?
Yes,
I think so, too.
indubitably.
Yeah.
But we didn't need somebody cool for Dr. Simeon, and we got Richard Grant.
That's true. But Richard,
Simon.
Richard
Simon.
Grant, okay.
was
Richard Grant, fantastic actor. It's not Ian McKellen. You guys were all pumping Ian McKellen up and saying he was God's gift to Doctor Who just like 2 weeks ago. And now you're like, no.
Because now you're trying to make something big out of it. It's obviously not.
Well, because I went into this going, okay, if you're going to get Ian McKellen
They
to
got-
do a voice, you don't give him 6 lines.
They got they got Dumbledore for the Christmas special a couple years.
But
That's just stunt casting.
he was like...
They got Kylie Minogue. I mean, they just go out and get names and bring them in.
But they all had huge roles. Ian McKellen literally had like 7 or 8 lines. It was that was it.
Brian Cox only had a couple of lines of it at the time.
Who?
Brian Cox.
Who?
He was Elder Ood. Oh, you know Brian Cox. Trust me.
Don't make him into him,
Oh
please.
Lord!
I
I can already see the reflection in his glasses. No, who is it?
Oh, he was Stryker in X2. He was in
You know
Rise
Brian
of the...
Cox.
Oh, he looks horrible. There.
He's the original Manhunter. Or original Hannibal Lecter in
Who was
Manhunter.
he?
He was Elder Ood.
But see, he's not. This is not Ian McKellen. That's my point.
He was in Braveheart.
It's like getting. He's gone, but getting Sir Laurence Olivier for 6 lines. You don't do that.
It's kind of like getting Orson Welles to be in Godzilla.
Yeah, but Orson
Oh,
Welles,
wait.
he kind of whored himself out of it. So.
Hollywood blacklist.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's why he was.
I would love for Ian McKellen to come back. I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's part of.
I think it will happen. It's part of the grand scheme.
I don't think it
I'm
is.
calling
I
it
think-
now, Jessica.
Okay.
I'm calling it now.
Glenn thinks the Great Intelligence will come back.
I think the Great Intelligence will come back.
I was right on the fact that Clara was not going to be the same Clara in every episode. She was going to be a timeline type thing of Clara. Where
Wouldn't it be cool if Claire's the new Rory? Like we get this new companion when it comes back in March, and she dies again, and we're all like,
I don't think
There was
I don't
one
think
that's-
she's going to live through any of the episodes. I think she will die in every episode, and there will be a reason why he keeps encountering Clara in
Don't know if it's going to go that far.
different webs of time. I think that's
Just looking
something.
at the trailer, I know it's not going to go that far.
Oh, I think it will.
She's wearing the same
I'm calling it out,
costume
Jessica.
in multiple
I'm calling
scenes
it out.
that are not from the same
I keep calling
episodes.
Jessica out because she was going to avoid our show because of our my grand prediction. But
yeah, you're driving people away with that. So Glenn thinks the Great Intelligence is coming back just because Ian McKellen. I'm going to put this on record. Just
That's the
because
reason.
Ian McKellen is the voice
that's
of the Great
not the only
Intelligence.
reason.
We're going to see the Great Intelligence again.
No. That's not the only reason because the Great Intelligence was really kind of just name dropped in this story. I mean, that ultimately ends up what we've got here. But the Great Intelligence, again, goes back to the Yeti episodes from the Troughton era. So clearly he was using something there, and I think we're going to see more of that. I think there's going to
I
be
disagree.
more.
Do you think Yeti
More
are going to
Great
be
Intelligence.
the revived... Or do you think this was the revived adversary? Or do you think Yeti will be? Or do you still think...
No, I don't. I agree. They won't bring the Yeti back because they're it just what was it Scott said that you really can't convince anybody that.
What Moffat did with it, we're getting off track again, but what Moffat did with this is he managed to pull off something. There are so many villains from the classic series that you just can't bring back because
Right.
they're just not plausible. Quite honestly, the Macro were one that I never, ever thought that would make that list
But it
because,
worked.
they found a way to make it work, and that's what this is. They took something that was very 60s and very ridiculous, and Moffat, genius that he is, managed to pull it off and string this together, and everybody went, "Oh wow," including myself, who I had to go look it up.
Yeah.
Because I knew I'd heard it. It's just like the Doctor. It rings a bell, but I can't place it. And I had to go search and find out where I knew it from.
Having
Great
not
intelligence is coming back.
I think Ian
mark my
McKellen,
words.
as much as this is going to bother you,
Mark my words.
I'd love to see him back. I think Ian McKellen is part of the grand spectacle of it's Christmas, here's Sir Ian McKellen. I think that's all you're going to get.
There's more to it. Go ahead.
All right. If this were a backdoor pilot for Lady Vashta Adventures someday, sign me up. There was a progression in the characters. There was a scene in Good Man Goes to War where Jenny wonders how Vashta feels about her, and now they're married. There's no maid costume. Strax is back. You didn't see him and the Doctor interact before, but what a natural double act here. BBC America is advertising a show set in the same time period for 2013. So I doubt they'd have 2 series set during this time, but they'd really be missing out. So much said, and I'm only now getting to JLC. There are only so many ways an actress can play the young female companion. But she brings a smart, energetic twist. She's one of those talented actors who can show when she's thinking, putting ideas together as she takes everything in, just by the expression on her face. We see her able to handle people as a barmaid and as a nanny in a completely different way, and adjust to any situation. I loved the Ponds, but Clara potentially can be an all-time great. I was slightly annoyed that they brought back the Doctor Who thing again multiple times. But I can justify it as something they do for new audience members who never watched the show before and just don't get the title. That said, give the audience a chance to figure it out themselves. Overall, an amazing episode.
Quickly, let me interject there. There is a calculated reason why we keep getting the Doctor Who joke dropped in there. I think it goes back to the end of the last series with the
Yes.
ultimate question, and I think that this is a Bad Wolf reference. This is something
that's the
that
Moffat,
we have to
yeah.
put it out there to remember when we get this big reveal, whether we get to know his name, whether we get something that comes to fruition. And I'm expecting that to come on the 50th or during the 50th. Well, this is the 50th year now. Yeah, man, this is the 50th
This is the
year.
50th year,
That
isn't
just
it?
sunk in. But I think that's a calculated.
Our first podcast of the 50th anniversary year.
I think it might get a little lumbersome to those of us who know the fact that it's the title, it's not the Doctor's name, it's all of that. But I certainly don't think it's for new viewers. It certainly comes down to the fact that we're just dropping these 2 words because there's still a question that lingers out there, and I think this is the reminder that question is still out there.
Well, and even to simplify it, it's a long-running joke for 50 years.
That's true, too.
Every time the Doctor, pretty much every time the Doctor meets a new companion, they say, Doctor Who. I mean, that's just what you do with a new companion.
Only since Pertwee's era, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
Not 50 years.
It's a very long-standing. It's almost as frequent as the bigger on the inside.
But here's where Scott's coming from, though. Is it has been only because we've seen a string of them lately where they've done this, but they're very few and far between. You may go 20 stories before there's a Doctor Who joke. It doesn't happen a lot in classic series. In the 200 and some episodes, well, not 200, 180 some episodes between the beginning and the end of classic Who, it's peppered in there probably a dozen times. Maybe a little sort of more so in the Seventh Doctor's era. But it's been clearly a theme of this entire season. We've had the Doctor Who several times dropped. So that's what Scott's point is. It seems like it's getting redundant, like we're making the joke and it's becoming a tired old joke, even though you can justify the fact that they've done it before. But that's why I'm saying I think it's a calculated move on the storytelling part.
I think
because it's going to be
a twofold reason.
Well, it clearly is a way. You do get. I mean, it still
the
gets a
ultimate
chuckle.
question,
It still
because-
gets a chuckle out of me when they say Doctor Who, and I go, yeah.
Like somebody falling on a banana peel. Never gets old.
Never gets old.
No, it goes back to Simon Fisher Becker and The Ultimate Question. That's what we're leading up to.
It goes back to Dorian Moldovar, but
a friend of the show, Simon Fisher Becker.
Played by friend of the show. So, again, you're assigning real life names to Doctor Who characters. It doesn't work that way. It's not Matt Smith. It's the 11th Doctor.
Okay.
No, it's just the Doctor in his 11th incarnation.
Yes, that's true. But if you're going to make a reference.
Jumping tracks, I've had an idea for a future podcast.
We jump tracks a lot.
We've heard so much about the ladies in your lives, and we want to know, and we know that if they're not rabid fans, they at least have better than average knowledge of Doctor Who. So what if the three of them did one podcast on their own? It could be on any topic they choose, Who related, and include talking about their week, responding to mail, the whole thing. Could you guys resist being involved beyond setting up the recording? Ha 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 ha, he says. Okay, I'm done. Wish you all fun, safe New Year's and happiness all through 2013.
That would be fun, except for the Doctor Who podcast has already done that. They did that for, I want to say they did it for a April 1st show, I believe it was. And they had their partners and wives, and they came on and they did an episode. And they didn't. This would be in such a way that we do it, where we read email, we talk about what we did for the week. They really kind of set in the shoes of surrounding a Doctor Who podcast episode and talked about those sort of things. But so it's been done. Not that I'm opposed to it.
I'm game.
Not that we haven't done things that other podcasts have done before.
Precisely.
I'll vouch for Mel. I'm game.
I don't know if Sarah would be
I
up
was
for
going to say,
it.
Mel's the only one that's actually been on the podcast before. So,
Well, Sarah
Sarah
joined me for the side trip.
oh, she did. That's right. Holly's the only one that hasn't been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Holly would be very intimidated because your women folk know 10 times more about Doctor Who than she does. She just only knows because she's watched each of the new series episodes one time apiece. So
It might be better to say that your women folk are instead of saying above average on the knowledge of Who, they might be better to say that your women folk are tolerant.
yeah, mine especially.
Your obsessive
Mine
nature.
especially.
No, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Up next, Chrissy.
Chrissy writes, Steven Moffat's snowmen were scary, evil souls. Dear Vortex Boys, my subject line goes to the tune of Frosty the Snowman, FYI.
You want to try
Steven
rereading?
Moffat's snowmen were scary, evil souls.
There you go.
Why does she do that? She does these really clever what are those called? It's not a tagline, it's a
Subject.
Thanks. Keith was going to stick his head out the door and you got to it first. She does these clever subject lines, and then she gives me directions on how to read it in the email. When she knows clearly I don't read these ahead of time.
She never knows who's going to get it.
I get it.
Some of us are more prepared for feedback segments.
Well, when you see it coming, smack me in the head.
I've been given permission.
In all the rustling and kerfuffle with Christmas,
Good word use.
I completely forgot to tell Shaun about my adventures with German, since he was feeling low about his French final. But I'm glad to hear that he passed his test. I took a semester of German during my sophomore year of college. I chose German because I wanted to learn a language that wasn't Spanish, and the French and Japanese classes were full. And I hated taking German. I don't know if it was the professor or my classmates or just that I couldn't get the language down, but I hated that stupid class. Plus, I was too busy that semester because I also was the editor of the school newspaper. I was at a 2-year junior college, in case you're wondering how a sophomore got to be editor of the paper.
I just thought you were naturally talented, Chrissy. Thanks for bringing yourself down.
The only thing I could ever remember was the... Oh, God, I'm going to be able to do this. Ich weiß nicht. Or nicht. Nicht. All right. Ich weiß nicht. Which means, I don't know. I used that one a lot. By the time I was done with that class, I vowed I would never have to have a use for German in my life. Fast forward to 6 years later. I was in my last semester of graduate school, and I went to Europe for a study abroad trip. During that trip, I spent a few days in Vienna for I spent a few days in Vienna for a few days. Okay. Guess what? They speak in Vienna. If you guessed German, pat yourself on the back. But that's not even the coolest part. Once I got to Vienna, I got acclimated to my surroundings. I actually remembered quite a bit of the stuff from German class. Not enough to sit down with a native speaker and have a conversation, but enough that I could decipher what street signs and restaurant menus said so that nobody ordered the creepy-looking squid dish. Unless, of course, they wanted to. I haven't been able to remember much since that trip, though. I have a theory that you don't remember foreign languages you've learned until your brain desperately needs it. And I'm guessing that your brain doesn't count a French 1 final exam as a desperate need. Moral of the story, Shaun. If you ever find yourself in a French-speaking country, you might actually be surprised how much your brain remembers.
No.
That's easy to say now. But
I'm surprised how much my brain doesn't remember.
Let's take him up to Canada and see if he remembers. French Canada.
Je suis a? Yeah. We've talked before about how we really want the TARDIS to come visit us and land in the land in the backyard and go. I want the TARDIS to come so I can travel in the TARDIS so that I can get the translation. That's what I want.
French.
I want French translation for the TARDIS.
It stays with you, right?
That's what we're assuming.
So
that's what we hope.
That's what we hope.
Except for when the Doctor's regenerating and unconscious in a bed.
Right, that's right. It quit working in Christmas.
TARDIS was down.
That's true. The TARDIS was down, too.
That's when Shaun would need it. The TARDIS would be down.
I have a French final. Wake up! Wake up! She goes on to write, Brenda, I actually know once in Royal David City. I think we sang it when I was in a church Christmas pageant when I was a kid, and it gets a fair amount of playing time during Sunday services at my church in December. I just wanted to mention that there are at least a few Americans who know that song. And the kids singing it was positively adorable. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to drop in a thought or two... I do want to drop in a thought or two into the subject of how Steven Moffat writes women. And I even wrote up something to include in this feedback, but it went way too long and it got pretty heated. The topic brings out my inner grumpy bear, and it's probably worth a longer discussion that can be contained in... Oh, I'm sorry. It's probably worth a longer discussion that can be contained in a regular feedback. I actually may have enough material for a blog post now that I think of it. I'll just say this for now. As a female who is also a fan of Doctor Who, I don't have a problem with Moffat's female characters. I do, however, have a problem with people telling me that I should have a problem with it because I'm a female who enjoys Doctor Who. Personally, I think people are just looking for misogyny where there is none, and that irritates me. Irritates the crap out of me, especially when I'm trying to enjoy a good story. Anyway, if you three do plan on having a discussion on the topic in a future podcast, too late, I'll have plenty of feedback to send in. Enough carping, here's my review of The Snowman. I'm guessing that the no-story arc in Series 7 was just until the pawns left. Not that I'm complaining. It's been a while since we had a good mystery surrounding a regular character, and I've kind of missed it. I loved everything about Clara. I loved her interactions with the Doctor, and I loved how she searched him out and how she solved Madame Vastra's one-word test. But I also loved that there was a mystery about her even before she met the Doctor. She kept telling people that there was something else going on about her, but that they'd never believe it if she told them what it was. My guess is that she's already time and space traveler of some kind, already associated with some far unknown agency, and she was stationed in Victorian London, and the operation she's involved in required her to blend in any way she could, hence why she was a barmaid and a governess. Well, you guys have some really insightful stuff. I didn't get any of this.
I never got that impression.
I did question the barmaid governess thing that wasn't really answered.
I
thought she was working two jobs.
Yeah,
well, she was doing a favor for
somebody.
They were two very, very contrasting jobs,
and
that's what puzzled me.
The two jobs didn't so much puzzle me. The line of "you wouldn't believe me" was more for the benefit of the barmaid
absolutely.
part,
I think
not so much that in general overall.
I think that I can see that being masked as the reason. I mean, that's why simply you might think that's what she's saying, but from her point of view, it does almost seem like maybe that's a veiled response for something bigger, but maybe there is more to her.
I guess we'll find out in Series 7.
Madame Vastra and Ginny were a real treat, but Strax was hilarious. I didn't know what to expect from him when he showed up in the trailers, but he was so good. I'm glad that the Doctor addressed somewhat the fact that Strax was brought back to life by someone. We just don't exactly know who. But at least there was a nod to that question. I thought the concept of the TARDIS up in the clouds was really good, and that's where the Doctor's been hiding all this time. And I believe he's finally passed the 1,000-year mark in age.
Didn't he pass that in Series 6?
Right? Technically he did, because he came back and he was over 1,000 years old.
He was 1100.
Impossible
Astronaut.
In Impossible Astronaut.
Okay.
So
and with as much
you assume
time,
by the end with the Wedding of River Song that's the 1,000-year-old Doctor at that point.
I would assume that at this point, with as much time has passed with the Pawns, we know that they've been traveling for at least 10 years. I mean, he could be getting close to 1,200 at this point.
No, I would totally agree.
He's definitely over 1,000.
If not past, because who knows how much time for him has passed in between the Pawn visits.
Agreed, yes. Because I think he was aging 200 some years between while he's traveling intermittently in that 10 years with the Pawns. So
he's never been very good at time.
Wobbly time. All right, I loved everything about the scene where Clara first finds the TARDIS, and the scene where the Doctor actually takes her inside, and she says it's smaller on the outside. Oh, and the TARDIS interiors look really good, though Sexy could use a fresh coat of paint. Poor girl. Between the TARDIS and the new opening titles, I get this feeling that they're trying to bring stuff from Classic Who and New Who together for the 50th. So far, it looks really good. The opening titles remind me of a color scheme from the Pertwee era, and the flying through space bits were like the title sequences in the 80s. Oh, and Matt Smith's face was there too. All in all, this episode made me very excited for the upcoming 50th anniversary year, and I'm equally excited to see more of Clara Oswald. Oh, remember how I said that was her last name and it was either going to be Oswin or Oswald? I was right on both counts. I'll collect my super duper fan theory guessing credit now. Thank you. I'm done this week. Have a very happy and safe New Year's, everybody. Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Good job guessing that name.
Yes. We'll give you that one.
That's it.
The rest are yet to be seen.
We've got the great titles of the super duper fan theory guessing credit, and it's just we'll give it to you. That's the award.
And that was more regal than some of the awards we've given Keith. So
I still haven't been ranked up, and that I deserve.
You're such a novice.
He hasn't ranked up.
I've earned the title. Oh. Kind of like other stuff. I've earned the title, but not the pay.
It's not my fault. You're the one that came up with the idea of I shouldn't get a rank up until my doctor regenerates.
No! I said...
And then he gets amateur.
No, there was something else that we determined I need to get leveled up for before regenerating.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
I don't remember. What was it?
I don't remember either.
Companion leaving was one.
Companion leaving.
Oh.
Did I ever
get do we need to bestow amateur on him now?
I guess we need to bestow amateur on him now. Go with the Sonic.
All right, get the knighting tools.
Hold on.
Oh, be glad, eager listener, that you're here on this occasion.
Do you want to do this one?
To witness...
In 2013, the year of the 50th.
Oh, on the first day of 2013... the year of the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. On this day, we doth knight Keith amateur status.
I mean, we're going to do it, maybe Matt Smith would do it with the backwards holding.
Backwards.
All right. Are you ready for your knighthood?
I am ready.
All right, now pose for picture.
Amateur.
All right, now pose for picture. Now you get to give me the knight thing. There you go. Put it on your shoulder.
The side.
That's in your face now.
But then they can't see the Sonic otherwise.
And then I've got love in the background. My wife composed that shot very nice.
Nice.
Okay. Congratulations, Keith. You're now amateur status.
It only took me 3 months.
It's taking
of waiting.
It's taking you 105 episodes to get that.
3 months of
3
waiting.
ranks.
3 months of waiting for the actual title ascension.
If you'd have reminded us sooner,
I kept reminding you.
we might have done something about it.
Has it been 3 months since we had New Who? I mean, besides Christmas?
I was just
Yeah.
estimating. That seems about right, though.
Oh, that seems right, sure. It
was October, wasn't it?
October. It hasn't been quite 3 months.
It's January now.
November, December.
But it's January 1st.
Okay. So, hey, you're an amateur now. Are you feeling different?
I feel great.
Get your badge. A little gold star.
We talked about getting
for mathematic
patches,
excellence.
We never did that.
We never did that.
We never did that either.
Put on his scarf. Patches.
You know,
I'm sure somebody makes newbie, novice, and amateur patches generically.
Wasn't there one in between there, though?
No.
I thought this was my 4th rank.
No.
Because I got something for crying when David Tennant generated.
You got novice 2.0. I don't know.
You got a bar under
Yeah,
novice.
you got a bar under novice.
You got a hashtag.
I think you said you should rank up for.
You guys
crying.
agreed with me.
And we went, that's so formal, All right. Who's next?
Even though he knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the bigger achievement.
But you cried what?
When
David Tennant regenerated.
Oh, that doesn't count. You totally don't get one for that.
What?
When he cried when another doctor regenerated. I'm willing to give him a 2.0 in there. We'll come
give
up
him
with
a bar.
We'll give him a bar for that.
Upper novice?
Upper novice. Yeah, you enjoyed that title for a whole 2 minutes.
Now that we've established it.
Does that imply for the first 6 months you were a lower novice?
Just a novice. Military ranks, there's more than one to each one.
Staff novice?
Yeah.
What's
There you
Brenda
go.
have to say?
Brenda, our last bit of feedback. Dear Vortex gang,
It's almost been 2 hours.
I journeyed to Virginia after Christmas to visit my mom, and I downloaded a few different Doctor Who podcasts to keep me occupied on the trip there and back. Now, I can now say with conviction that yours is by far my favorite episode review-based podcast of all that I've heard. And that includes some of the supposed, quote, leading ones that are recognized as major players in the Whoniverse. Without going into detail about why I didn't care for these other podcasts, I will say that I'm glad I found you guys first. Your episodes feel like fun conversations around the table with a bunch of friends, and I just want to let you know how much I enjoy being part of your gang.
Aww.
Brenda, we love having you as part of our gang.
And once again,
we have a gang now.
Once again, we're flattered and a little humbled by the fact that we're regarded that highly.
I'm not. We're awesome. Just kidding.
She continues with...
Some days I wake up and I just can't believe how awesome I am. It's just, man, this is going to be a good year. I wish everybody was as awesome as I was. Must be nice to live in your world, Glenn.
All right, she continues with, I look forward to your reviews of The Snowman. I was left with the
snowman.
Sounds weird. I've been saying the snowman for the last few days. Snowman sounds weird.
It's the snowman.
The snowman.
The
The Snowman.
The snowman.
It's because the actual line is the snowman, and that's what's been thrown.
Yeah,
you.
nah, but that's not it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was left with a big what after watching it on Christmas night, though I attribute much of my confusion to pure sleep deprivation over the previous 2 days. I was in no condition to have to think so hard. I'm trusting Moffat to give me answers eventually, but I can't imagine how Clara/Oswin are connected, or how she will return yet again after having died twice. And for that matter, how did Strax get resurrected? I know from reading other reviews that the whole idea of the Great Intelligence is related to Classic Who, that I've not seen before.
And unfortunately, not many of us have because it doesn't exist anymore.
All but one episode of each story.
Yeah. And recons. It exists in recons.
Yes. So I trust you to fill me in on the details. The sneak previews of coming episodes look interesting, but I do hope they're not quite as convoluted as this Christmas episode felt to me. And I look forward to getting to know Clara better because I really do like her energy with the Doctor. A few random thoughts about the snowman. Pumping fake snow onto a bunch of green, deciduous trees and lush green grass does not winter make. I know that they had to film the episode earlier in the year, but really, couldn't they bring in fake trees without big green leaves and roll out some dead grass? This is a pet peeve of mine. When film crews try to disguise what they're really shooting and fail in the efforts. It's like when the cameraman stops down the aperture to make it look like night, but there are still shadows showing. It's a minor point, I know, but I'd noticed throughout the episode, and it pulled me out of the supposed winter setting. I love the comic relief of Strax. His repeated references to grenades and other weapons were the Sontaran equivalent of squirrel, and the bit with the memory worm was worthy of Laurel and Hardy. I like the new console a lot, especially the Gallifreyan symbols, but the control room is a bit Spartan, almost as if the Doctor didn't want to feel at home since his family is now gone. I wonder if he'll soften up a bit as he becomes more comfortable with Clara. The Doctor looks good in his Victorian clothes, and Amy's glasses are a nice touch. I'm not so crazy about the hat, but otherwise a very natural look for him. The Sherlock Holmes references were great fun. Madame Vastra and Ginny as the inspiration for Holmes and Watson was a brilliant touch, and the Doctor as a bumbling Holmes was a hoot. Knowing Moffat's connection to Sherlock just added a bit of interest. Those are some of my thoughts. I'm sure most, if not all, of my questions will be answered by seeing the snowman again and by hearing your reviews. Happy New Year to you all. Brenda in Atlanta.
Thank you once again, Brenda. Very much, very, very much appreciated. And if you have specific questions for Moffat about how he's going to make Clara come back and how this is all supposed to work, we recommend you contact Jessica. She's got her finger on the button. So,
before we get started,
oh boy.
Well, no, I'd like to go to the continuity issue.
He's pulling out his soapbox. Watch
everybody
out.
has had these questions about the classic series. And instead of me trying to just pull this out of the top of my head, I'm gone to Source of All Knowledge, Wiki, and I'm going to read what they have because it's very clear and concise on how they lay this out.
Nice.
All right. The Second Doctor previously encountered the Great Intelligence in the serials The Abominable Snowman, set in the 1930s, and The Web of Fear, set in the 1960s. In these stories, the Great Intelligence uses Robot Yeti as its physical presence. The events of the Web of Fear are alluded to by the Doctor in The Snowman when he presents the London Underground biscuit tin to the Great Intelligence and Dr. Simeon's laboratory. It's cookie tin.
Lunchbox.
It's cookie tin. The Intelligence states, "I do not understand these markings," in reference to the 1967 London Underground map design on the tin, an anachronism in 1892. The Doctor remarks that the Underground is a key strategic weakness in metropolitan living, referring to and possibly setting in motion the future Yeti attack on London via the Underground. In this respect, The Snowman may be considered a prequel to the Second Doctor Yeti serials, establishing an origin for the Intelligence and explaining its penchant for snowmen and knowledge of the London Underground.
Abominable or not.
So wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, the 11th Doctor presumably could have set in motion the events that the Second Doctor has to deal with in both the Snowman stories.
Knowing that makes some of the lines make more sense, especially Jenny's line at the end of... and why they think the Underground is a potential weakness.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense knowing the history.
Now, quite honestly, knew very little about the Yeti and the Abominable Snowman, other than the fact that the Great Intelligence is in it, and it wages a attack on London using the underground. And so knowing that much, getting the lunchbox reference that I did, I got a little chuckle out of that, and I went, oh, yeah, I know the reference here. I'd never seen the episodes, and my full intention now is to go find the recons of those. But that gives you a little bit of the history and the reason why this, and how Moffat has so, as Shaun pointed out, geniusly interwoven the Great Intelligence into new series without making it as maybe silly and corny as it would have been had he just directly pulled it out of classic.
Because today's audiences would not accept a robot Yeti.
Exactly.
It just wouldn't work.
And that's how the Great Intelligence manifested itself in those episodes, was it utilized the robot
so
Yeti.
it still used
the
puppets.
The Yeti were believed to be, and those are unit stories as well. The
the first
I should say the second, the Web of Fear is unit story. The Yeti in those stories was presumed to be the real Yeti until they find out later that it's
okay.
Yeah, no, it's a bait and switch going on.
Right.
Now, this is the interesting thing is I kind of suffered through the whole thing as the Doctor did when he's tapping the card at the very end going, Great Intelligence rings a bell. It wasn't until that line that it tipped something in the back of my head that went, oh, wait, yeah, maybe I remember. And I did. I had to go look it up. And then when I realized he was talking about the Yeti and specifically Web of Fear, because, again, both those are lost episodes, but I had the novelization from Target Books for Web of Fear, and it's one of those that I'd read. And then all of a sudden, because that adventure is the one where they attack through the underground, that it clicked. I remembered the subway tunnels and Patrick Troughton's Doctor running around doing things, and all of a sudden I got it. So that was genius.
Yeah, terrifically done. Do you have a synopsis? Okay, well, let's launch right into it. I don't think we ever have.
We normally don't for New Who.
There's snow.
There is snow.
Carnivorous snow.
Carnivorous
falling across the planet.
This episode,
Dr. Simeon goes and collects and brings, and chaos erupts, and the Doctor sulks, and the lizard woman of whatever lane she lives on
and her lesbian wife.
I'm glad you don't write these. Although that's better than some of the ones we've
a
read.
renegade cyborg cop.
A renegade cyborg cop. Keith, what'd you think of this episode?
This episode was so good and gives me high hopes for the continuation. I almost expected myself to kind of, there's too much change in this, but I accepted everything, and almost with open arms. Partially because Jenna Louise Coleman as Clara is fantastic.
Yes.
And if we hadn't have gotten that taste of her in Asylum of the Daleks, I don't think it would have been as accepting. Because after Asylum of the Daleks, I was kind of like, okay, I wasn't really looking forward to Series 7 because I knew the Ponds were leaving. I didn't want to see them go, so I wasn't really looking forward to this season. And then she shows up and completely blows any expectations I had of this new companion, of what she's going to be like, her history of acting alone is kind of like a Catherine Tate, in my opinion. Catherine Tate, comedy. While she had comedic elements in Doctor Who, from what I knew of her, that wasn't in this. Jenna Louise Coleman, almost Degrassi stuff, from what I knew of her. And I've seen her in Captain America, but she's a blink and miss her character.
She's such a small part in that one.
And from what I understood of the show she was on, I did not have much hope for this. But then seeing her in Asylum kind of made me tap my toe for the rest of the season of like, okay, what's she going to bring to the table? And she delivers completely. She is so fantastic in this entire story. I really enjoyed Strax. I don't agree he deserves his own spinoff. He's good in small chunks. I don't want a full episode of Strax. That would get old very quickly. And really, by the end of the memory word scene, I'm glad they moved on. If it would have dragged out any longer, it would have just felt exhausting.
It was just enough.
It was the right
It was just enough
amount.
comedy.
Well, and Strax gets other comedy moments, but we don't drag out the same comedy stick each time.
Well,
it's different.
we revisit
each time.
some of the comedy.
Somewhat.
But that's based off of Sontaran comedy. Really.
Situational.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's one of the complaints that I know that some people have, and I'm kind of borderline on that. Is just that I loved it. I loved everything Strax did. I loved everything Strax said, but I kind of feel like it cheapened his character a little bit because we got such an interesting twist on, first of all, a Sontaran nurse. The idea of that, yes, is ludicrous, but because he was doing penance for the Doctor, because he was doing that, it created this real debt of honor situation for him, and it really, I thought, gave him a lot of depth as a character. And now he is reduced to the comic relief, and he's kind of despite still being tactically brilliant, he's kind of a bumbling idiot in everything else. And it's
the line from the Doctor when he talks about him being brought back. He gave his life for a friend of mine once. Why is he still alive? Well, a friend of mine brought him back, but I don't think all of his brain came back with it. I don't think that was a joke.
It certainly does justify.
That's how I can justify his behavior in this entire story and the prequel.
By the way, on that note, I totally agree with Chrissy in the sense that was it Chrissy that said that one little line. It was Jessica. I don't remember who it was.
That was Chrissy that said thanks for
with
explaining it.
With that one little line, it didn't have to be
just enough.
Exactly, it was just enough to say, okay, I'm fine with the reason why he's back now.
For the fanboy geeks that want more. Are we assuming that the other friend who brought him back was Vastra using Silurian hibernation technology and stuff? That's what he was using on Clara later?
Maybe. Here's the thing with Strax. I didn't see him as bumbling idiot in this at all. A lot of people have stated that, he's just reduced to bumbling idiot status. He wasn't. It was still that Sontaran coping with Earth society. With Earth traditions, with just the things that we deal with on a daily basis are different for him. And so I thought Moffat used those situations and twisted it in such a way that it made it funny, but it didn't make Strax seem stupid.
No, the idea...
It made Strax out of his element.
And I would have been fine with that for most of it, but then there was some... And don't get me wrong, I still laughed. But when he confused Clara for a boy. I'm sorry, you go back to the Sontaran experiment, and they're experimenting to find out, these are ridiculous experiments. How much can the humans lift? How much can humans do this? What happens when we do that? Who cares? Why is this even knowledgeable? Why is this anything you need to know? But even he was able to tell the difference between a human male and a female.
Well, but... agree.
I mean, it's one of those that just
but the comedy
pushed
is
the line
there for not. He's just stupid because it's explained that he doesn't. He comes from a planet where they're all clones and asexual, and it doesn't. It worked for me. I didn't have a problem with that. That Strax wasn't maybe one of these scouts that came forward and had more knowledge about a situation, as in the Sontaran experiment, possible. Where you equip your scientists or the people that are doing investigations with the information that they need to know. Yeah, but for Sontarans, I mean, I get the impression he was serving penance in the one location that he was, and probably, I mean, he talked about human physiology not being Sontaran, and so he did have some difficulty with that in Good Man Goes to War.
And being able to create lactate fluid.
Exactly. But on the other hand, he was able to...
But while creepy, still appropriate.
He's able to, on the front lines, be a nurse and do what's needed to be done. So I didn't have a problem with that. And this is coming from the guy that watched the prequel for this and went, oh my God, that was rubbish. And thinking, what the heck is Strax doing here? And he was totally garbage. I didn't like him in the prequel. I absolutely was endeared to him. I thought that, again, somebody said this before, but the comedy timing was precise.
Yes.
The pairing of the Doctor and Strax was fantastic.
Yes.
They played off of each other so well. The straight man comedy was delivered beautifully, and the Doctor the memory worm thing it kept going and kept going and got funnier and funnier and funnier. And when I didn't think it could get any funnier, when he looks up and he says, "Sir, I appear to have been run over by a garbage." I completely lost it. I had to stop the thing because I had downloaded it the next day from AOL, or not AOL, where'd that come from iTunes. I had to stop the feed because I laughed so hard for like 10 minutes. Mason came in and asked me why I was crying. I had to tell him I wasn't crying. I was laughing so hard. Oh, anyway, so I absolutely love Strax. The fact that they get a throwaway line for why he's here, the fact that he's here, and I really thought the comedy was genius.
And Strax also reflects the mood of the Doctor because he's borderline mean to him.
He really is.
He is, and you kind of accept that because of the moodiness, the brooding that the Doctor is doing.
Which is one of the things I love about this story, is the using Clara to bring the Doctor back to be himself. He's moping and being broody about losing the ponds for, it almost seems like 50 years. Because he was also at the same time, I got the impression he was also investigating the snow for 50 years. Based off of a line at the end. When he says to Clara, no, because it stopped snowing.
Not investigating, observing.
Observing, yes.
I got that impression of that too.
Keeping an eye on it.
He's been keeping an eye on what's going on. Deep down inside, he still was curious about what had been going on for so long.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And that Clara brings him back to be himself. And there are moments of it early on where he's fighting. You can see he's fighting being who he really is. Especially when he's interacting with Clara and Strax and the memory worm and all of this stuff. It almost felt out of place because the Doctor is supposed to be so broody and so I don't care, but he's caring. And then it just continues, and then the one word situation. While I like the one word stuff, it almost feels like Vastra and Jenny don't get enough to do in this story. They're there for the setting because it's their time period.
Here's the thing, yeah.
But
let me put in here, because this is another thing, that while I like Strax so much, I was a little lukewarm on Jenny and Madame Vastra. Because I really, really enjoyed their characters in A Good Man Goes to War.
It's almost flipped.
In this one, they did make the attempt at the Holmes and Sherlock dynamic of the two.
And I love the subtle reference of, Doyle is basing your stories off of it, not straight out saying Sherlock.
Right. And so I appreciate the attempt at that element. But they really left me just kind of lukewarm. And while everybody is praising them, saying, I can totally see this was a backdoor spinoff, they need to do a pilot with these two, I was much less impressed with them in this episode. And I like Keith, kind of felt like there wasn't enough for them to do. I do like the idea that their relationship has advanced.
Yes. I'm
glad that Moffat included that. And that he has sort of recognized that these characters would be further along than they were in Good Man Goes to War, and they were, and so I appreciate that. But what the one answer
you can lie with one word.
I'm on two sides of the fence with this now. I wasn't before because I didn't like the culmination of that one word answer test being pond. Because it's like pond had to be the key word, but it simply was a pond in the courtyard.
It literally was a pond.
So it's almost coincidental.
It is, but that's what makes it work. Is because for Clara it's coincidental, but for the Doctor it holds greater meaning, and that's the key that unlocks it for him.
Which it almost for Vastra, because of the way she says it.
Well, Vastra and Jenny are sort of leading Clara, which I do like about.
Yes.
I do like it because they, as much as anybody, want the Doctor to be his old self. And so I love the fact that they almost have this giddiness of them, like, yeah, come on,
especially Jenny.
You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, especially Jenny. But the one word pond thing felt a little forced to me in the story.
I didn't see it coming.
I didn't either, but when it did come, I did that one of those. That's clever because it was the pawns before, and that's the thing that. But on the flip side of that, it was just a pawn that was.
Well, unless there's.
Are you really going to go there?
What?
The duck pond?
No, I wasn't going to go to the duck
okay.
pond. Although I still think that'll come into play. Unless our listeners are right, and that Clara has been pumped with more information.
That's why I started this topic here. Now I am on the fence on this. Because if what some of our listeners have pointed out here, Jessica specifically, that Clara is a plant, and that she's an agent somehow working through these different entities of Clara, of herself, then perhaps there might be something there that she knew ahead of time what the keyword would be, because she's trying to manipulate the Doctor in some way.
I don't think so, but
I don't think so.
It's an interesting idea.
It's a great idea.
I'm interested in that.
Just because of the look on her face, that she becomes very crestfallen when Vastra says, "Okay, go give me a message and include all the reasons and blah blah blah," and she kind of gets like, "Okay, I can do that," but do it in one word, and she kind of stops like, we're still on that?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like she's all excited. Okay, I'm finally getting somewhere. Oh, still one word.
It just, that whole scene was
the
I
scene
love the way
played out
I
nicely.
love the way it was shot.
Yes.
I loved the way that they interacted with each other, and I loved the words that were chosen.
I
throughout.
concur. The pond one, I think, was my sticking point. I was like,
See,
wait a minute.
I just I kept thinking, what one word could you use? What one word, children was kind of the one I kept coming back to. That the Doctor wouldn't refuse to help a child. But then she said pond. It was like, oh, that's even better. Because it is a pond. It works.
Because it has the double meaning, and the way Vastra almost addresses it when he's looking at his glasses of Strax has already suggested a place to investigate, almost seems like they had more knowledge about the snow and the ice than what they were lighting on. And that's really why Vastra thinks they should investigate. It's just a happy coincidence.
That doesn't doubt me at all. That they were already, they
were three steps ahead of Clara, even, but they couldn't. They
didn't have a place to.
They for so long have tried to convince the Doctor, and he was looking for something else.
Well,
it's so
like the
when
random
something
scene at
else
the
came
beginning,
along, they said, "Okay, we can steer this."
The random scene at the beginning where they confront Dr. Simon, whatever his name is.
Simeon.
Is it Simeon? Is it Monkey Simeon?
I think so. It's spelled S-I.
I thought it was Simeon or something. It had a weird pronunciation. Anyway, when they go in and they confront Richard E. Grant in the alleyway, there's no reason for that to happen.
Other than they know he's behind it.
That's just it. They know he's behind
it.
They know it's like the cops. We know you're the bad guy. We just can't prosecute yet.
Right.
It's almost like...
And we know that the Doctor could figure this out, but he has no desire to do it.
Yeah.
It's almost like Vastra recognizes, pond. That'll get the Doctor moving, but really, that's the pond we need to look at, and uses it more than Clara's, more than the actual
one word. I don't know that she let it
word.
that much, but yes, perhaps.
Yeah,
perhaps. Can I say, speaking of Richard E. Grant, fantastic! I loved him in this. Gosh, he was so perfect, and I kept looking at him.
I just wish he was better realized.
And seeing the Shaun Doctor. If he could have played the Shaun Doctor in real life this exact way, been a good guy, but being the Doctor, but still playing it that way, because that's kind of the way the Shaun Doctor comes across in Scream of the Shalka.
Victorian values.
Shalka Doctor, not Shaun Doctor. Shalka Doctor. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
We know where you're going.
It wasn't until I said Scream of the Shalka. The Shalka Doctor, had it been realized on screen that way, and the look that Richard E. Grant had in this, that would be a fantastic Doctor. I would love that. Anyway, so it kept making me pining more for a Shalka Doctor.
And he was so good in his transitions, because he spends most of the story being very stoic and very detached and creepy.
Yes.
Just flat out creepy. And then when the great intelligence loses its voice, and he cowers, and he just physically diminishes into this child who's terrified of the Doctor, and who are you? And there's a strange person in my room kind of look. To the zombie, creepy again, but
Right.
just
But now controlled. Very
controlled,
controlled.
puppety. And yeah,
Puppety,
maybe
there you
it's
go.
a little over the top. Maybe it's a little cheesy, but the lurching and the arm movements and everything. I mean, I
so.
found it to be
I thought-
genuinely
I did
scary.
too.
I thought his portrayal was fantastic.
Yeah.
I just think the resolution of everything was lackluster.
The ending resolution with the snow all of a sudden converting to tears or salt water randomly.
Well, not randomly. It's
It's a Christmas ending.
It was very fairy tale-ish.
it was
yes.
very quick.
It's not a typical Doctor Who episode ending. It's a Christmas
acceptable
ending.
to me, but I did want something more. I did want something maybe a little different than the direction we went with it. So I agree. That was one of the things that left me feeling just a tad empty.
It's just shy of the whole world believes in the Doctor enough. That, I mean, it's along the same lines.
Not
Of,
that bad. Certainly not that bad.
It's along the it's in the same ballpark. It's along the same lines of that kind of force of will. You know,
Yeah.
that
If they hadn't have laid the groundwork of this girl's dreams and her connection to the governess and the ice sculpture or the ice woman, it would have been even harder to swallow.
I'll tell you, it certainly plays on a whole. You look for the science in some of that, and really the only science you could see would be maybe the great intelligence psychic connection to everything that's going
Yes,
on.
that's
how I kind of bought into the girl that dreams and the just this whole psychic connection that the great intelligence might have with its surroundings, and that's what made it a little more plausible.
sure it's just enough there to buy it. I'm not complaining. I just
Well,
I had to think about it a little bit to understand why. So that's maybe not enough to buy it.
how many times have you seen it now?
3.
And
two.
Okay,
And it
I've
wasn't
seen
until my second viewing that I was like, oh, okay. That's why it turned to rain all
Yeah,
of a
I
sudden.
didn't catch it the first time either, and I had hoped that there was something a little more scientific. But then the second time I went, okay, I'm just going to buy that. I'm going to find a way to
I can
rationalize why
connect the
that's
dots.
okay.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it on first viewing, but I got more out of it the more I watched it.
Yeah,
Oh, I
By the time the
absolutely.
end of the third viewing happened, it was like I'm still gleaning little pieces from this story.
I like the staircase to the clouds. I like the fact that the Doctor's been hanging out on a cloud.
Yes.
And I like the fact that they did explain to us why the TARDIS is able to.
It wasn't a Christmas
Yeah,
thing. I was really
exactly.
thinking that was just
Yeah.
going to be the setup, that we've got a spiral staircase, it goes up into the clouds, the TARDIS is on the cloud, and that's all you're going to get.
Yeah, but we
Visually
get-
cool, but not scientifically
get
sound.
the explanation.
Oh, but it's how do we climb so fast? It's taller on the inside.
And
How did we get up here?
The line, the fantastic line where the Doctor completely says, everybody says it. Go ahead, everybody says it. And she
Oh.
runs out around the TARDIS, comes back in and says, it's smaller on the outside. And it just blew my mind because I was like, yeah, everybody says it differently than that because that's not it. But it was so cool that she chose that.
And then the realization later that, oh, wait, it's water vapor. It's not going to stop
Super
ice.
Right.
compressed water vapor.
And he even has the line of, oh, duh, I should know that.
Plastic net off of something.
I'm assuming one of the chairs.
Maybe. Probably mine.
And then that's when we start, after the key moment, which I think we all loved. I don't know who, or I don't know why, I only know who.
Oh, the key moment.
The key moment.
Not
Giving the key.
Not the key importance.
Not the key
The
moment.
key.
The key moment.
The key moment.
The key moment. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Then the first realization of, oh, wait a minute, this could be the same character.
Right.
Of, is there
Well,
a
I love
kitchen?
the
I
fact
just love
that-
making souffles.
I love the fact
What?
that, that comment is made about her making.
And the doctor
the
even
souffle.
pauses and is like, what? What'd you just say?
Yeah, I that was good because it's a. What did you just say in the Asylum of the Daleks? But that's more so because he's trying to figure out where she's getting the milk. This time it's a wait. What did you say? Because
I've heard this before.
I've heard this before, and he hadn't seen her before. Which
Well, yes.
he makes reference to this in this one that the voice is the same, but I never saw her. I love the fact that they tied those two together. I like the fact at the end that when she dies, she says the exact same thing, which is the
Run, you clever boy.
"Run, you clever boy, and remember me,"
Yes.
or "and remember." that was just blew my mind because I went, told you guys.
I almost wish they wouldn't have been so heavy-handed later with the remembering of that, showing them both back to back.
Showing them, yeah, it was a little heavy.
We've already seen.
Although it's been 3 months.
Well,
no, it's been longer than that.
But we've already seen Clara say those lines. Just show us the Asylum clips. You don't need both.
That's true.
You don't need both at all.
They did do both of them, didn't they? That's right.
But it was that was not necessarily for our benefit. It was from the Doctor's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still.
Him remembering that specific instance as well.
And it's also a plug for new viewers who have tuned into the Christmas special who have not watched the rest of Season 7.
For Moffat to say, hey, guess what you're missing.
If you like these programs, go watch my other work.
I think we've covered the story pretty well. Let's talk a little bit about the Open.
Let's talk about the Open!
Oh, yes. I love the new Open.
I do, too.
The music
I saw it and I thought,
to the
you
graphics.
guys are going to hate this.
No, I absolutely loved it.
Why would we hate it?
I don't, because you
Because
guys...
Glenn likes it.
No, yes, well, that's part of it.
That's probably
but
why.
because you guys had such issues with the new Opens on last season.
Well, that's because
the first half of this
That's
season.
because the first half of this new season wasn't new Opens.
Agreed.
It was
But I
color
think
coded
that's-
old Open.
yes.
Well, didn't like.
That's what I didn't like about it.
Here's what
Give
it
me
was.
brand new-
Here's
give
what
me
it
new
was.
composition.
Hey, here's what it was. It was a transition into, hey, we're going to give you a new Open here pretty soon. And I think it was softening a lot of people up. It may not have softened you guys up, but I think it made it more acceptable for a lot of people that were leading into a brand new era because it's like some people said, it's a melding of the classic Who and the new Who, and it's done really well. But I think that the new Opens or the quasi-new Opens from the first half of this season was to soften people up and get them ready to accept a new opening. Now, it doesn't work on you guys because you guys already are familiar with classic Who, so there's already a familiarity. When you see the Open for this one, you go, oh, that's the Matt Smith's face.
Oh,
and going through time, or going through space first, and then going through time. And those little things, you guys already... Excuse me, I'm spitting all over Keith. You guys already accepted
Your snowball
that.
is melting.
However, you have a lot of people that are only new Who fans that might have had a harder time accepting such a divide in the style of Open. And so while this still melds the two, you still had kind of a soft build-up to that. I think that was the purpose.
See, I would have thought the soft build-up would have been the thunderstorm in the Vortex. That's kind of
well, maybe so. But a lot of people kind of harped on that. For the change from the Tennant Open to the Matt Smith Open. Where's this lightning coming from? What is that? It's ridiculous. I mean, that's what I heard. I heard that, and I heard that screamed louder from new fans than I did anybody from the classic series.
See, part of me, I could see that point of view, but another part of me says they've got the Christmas special written, and they're like, hey, let's do a new Open for it. And then they say, hey, let's go back and try to do new Opens for the other ones, but no, let's not fully do it.
I don't get the impression that happened. I
don't get the impression that what you said happened either.
I think that Moffat knew he was going to do some things to meld the two together, and I think he knew he was going to do new Open. He hadn't written the Christmas special yet, but I think he had an idea of doing on the Christmas episode, since this was technically the kickoff to the 50th anniversary, doing it then. And so I think that's why he's led people up to it.
And I have no problem with new Open 50th anniversary. Let's do something different.
I have no problem with new Open in general. It's a new season. Okay, new Open.
It's not a new season, though.
Well,
this is the second half of the...
That's true.
Another reason why I think it was a build-up.
That's what I mean. If they would have actually done a new...
softening the blow.
If they would have actually done a new Open with Season 7, I wouldn't have had a problem with it.
But again, we're coming in from a class.
Exactly.
We've seen them.
People are crybabies that need to stop.
I'm trying to step out and look at it from a new viewer perspective, and I think it was a calculated move. I think it was a smart move.
This is one of those instances where I love...
I'm not asking you to like what he did, but I think I'm maybe asking you to accept a reason why they were color coded.
I guess
effort wasn't there early on.
I think
you guys think there's a lack of effort. I think that's by saying it was just a color coding of a new color scheme for the. I think that the rationale for that is the fact that it wasn't that they were being lazy. It was the fact that it was a soft build up to something that was going to change.
I guess I just want to hear Moffat say that.
Well, yeah.
I'd rather just
Instead of just
I'd
random
rather just rip the
speculation.
carpet out from underneath me and change it. I'd rather just change it.
But for you, but I'm saying from a new
Yeah,
viewer, I think it needed to be fed to them. I mean, look at the fickleness of new viewers
Yeah,
between
I know.
Tennant and Smith. I mean,
If those people aren't
you
gonna be
know
happy
what it
regardless.
does though is
maybe not.
Those were the people I would put money down that those are the people complaining about the thunderstorm in the Vortex
I don't
and the
know.
open.
It makes
that
me
didn't
like the
want-
thunderstorm less.
You know, quite frankly,
Quite honestly.
here's the precedent
Wait,
for
which
this.
does?
The new open makes me like the thunderstorm less. Because I didn't mind the thunderstorm.
years
since it was-
ago.
But I didn't mind the thunderstorm because it was different. I didn't mind the thunderstorm because it was always a thunderstorm in space. That didn't bother me. But it was so similar to what we had come before, and it was just kind of a cool new look to it, but it was something that we hadn't seen, and I thought there was a reason behind it. Yes, I know you're going to laugh at me because I look for reasons and everything. I really thought that we were going to play around with this, this is the reason this is going to look this way now. And maybe we still will, but
He's always the hope, always the optimist. And maybe we still will.
It now is
It's
just
not
a
gonna
new
happen.
open. I mean, it's like
And-
if it had
and-
been underwater,
And
it wouldn't have made any difference.
Jessica, I sure hope you're right, but I really don't want you to get your hopes up that Moffat's going to close some. Shaun's in the same boat. As you, I don't think unless he's just doing what he wanted to do to me, and that's make me believe he's not going to close some of those loopholes, like an exploding TARDIS. I don't see that happening, guys. I just don't see it happening, and even in the 50th.
I see it
I
happening.
hope it happens,
I'm
but
calling
I
it.
don't
It's
see
happening.
it.
Speaking of the TARDIS, I love the new
Yeah,
console.
let's go to the.
I'm not
TARDIS
done talking
open.
about the open yet.
Well, let's
okay.
talk more about the open.
All right. I still think.
I know what I was going to say
Oh.
before you start. You know what's a precedence for my reasoning behind that is look how J&T, how the opens changed from J&T on, but how gradually they changed. How there was a meld from the Fourth Doctor and the Fifth Doctor, and then the Fifth Doctors even got
Oh, from J&T on.
yeah,
right.
from J&T
okay.
on.
Sorry,
J&T worked
I
us
went Russell T
into
Davies. I was like, there wasn't
J&T
much for a change there.
soft worked us into a change in the title sequence as well because we had it a certain way for so long with Tom Baker. So and then look
We
what
got
happened.
one season of Starfield, but still with Tom Baker's face, and then all of the new stuff.
It was a
and then
gradual build, and I
more.
think that Moffat sees it. And here's where it doesn't work, and it didn't work for a lot of people, was how many people were upset with Sylvester McCoy's opening? Tons, because it was an abrupt change, and there was no preparing people for that new idea. And again, that was Jonathan Nathan Turner, but at that point, it was a Jonathan Nathan Turner who was trying to get... was done being the showrunner and tried to get out several times, but they wouldn't let him.
Here's the thing. When I first saw Sylvester McCoy's, and I've talked about this before, is it threw me because it was so jarring, because it was so different, and it wasn't what is this show? I thought I was watching Doctor Who. I wasn't sure. And I wasn't sure it was Doctor Who.
Right.
Until the TARDIS showed up.
Right.
In that open. And then it was like, okay, I can relax. I kind of felt that way with the new open. Even though it zooms by right at the beginning. Whoosh,
Right, you see it.
I'm so blinded by everything else that's coming at me, and there's so much overload, and nebula, and stars, and space, and sparkles, and Matt Smith's face.
Matt Smith's face. I love him. Sorry.
That I wasn't
Still, when I see that, I go, oh.
that I wasn't.
That is the most classic
Yeah,
about
totally.
that opening.
Yes.
I still wasn't sure what it was. It was like, and then the TARDIS showed back up, and I was like, okay.
And I love,
good.
I
And then
love
it
the
comes
door
flying
opens.
up to the screen,
Yeah.
and the door opens to...
The
I don't think
episode.
it's cheesy at all.
I love that.
I don't think it's cheesy either because I love that effect on the classic DVDs. How it
Yes.
comes up and opens, and then you've got your menu screen. I've always liked that, so I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah.
I coming from us classic guys, I mean, we can't. I think there's very little we can say about this new open because they do it really
I do think it's a little busy. Specifically when the title comes up and it says, and this is the other thing.
not any busier than that. Sylvester
Not any
McCoy
better than
crap.
Sylvester McCoy. This is the other thing that surprised me. As much as I harped on it initially that I wasn't going to like the Doctor Who, the DW,
Yeah.
with the TARDIS light on it, being actually sandwiched between the font.
Right.
I really miss
Now
it.
you're missing it.
When it came up and it said Doctor Who, and there was no TARDIS there to go spinning off.
The thing is, I think we're still
I
going to see
miss
it. We're
that
still going
now.
to see it in the marketing. So that
I'm sure
it's
the
still in
image
the
hasn't gone
marketing. Yeah,
away.
no, the logo's
it's just
there.
not part of that open.
I miss it as part of the open now.
I miss it as part of the open,
Or
but
in between
now
the
I
Doctor.
see it as that DW marks the Pond era.
That's not true. Maybe that part of the open.
Well, no, the DW
Yeah.
and TARDIS shape.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
The DW, it's from
that's not how that works.
11th hour
No, it
to...
It doesn't work that way, and you're too optimistic about things that aren't going to happen.
Now,
Moving on.
I'm still convinced.
Randall's in the TARDIS. We've got to get there. Come on.
We'll get there. I'm still convinced that all the 11 Doctors' faces are in that open.
No, good Lord. Oh, man. Go there. Explain to the listener what you're talking about.
If you go
they
on-
can laugh at you, too.
I watched it and watched it, and it's so subtle. I don't think you really notice it. But as things are,
It's so subtle you can't see it.
subtle you can't see
subtle,
it.
It's so subtle, it's not even there.
I think it's subliminal. But there's stuff, as stuff spins toward the screen, I think the nebulas and stuff are made up of scenes of other Doctors. I really do. I think I can pick out a Pertwee and a Baker. It's not distinct. It's not like Matt Smith's face
I
where
can
you
go
see
outside and look at the clouds and see a bunny and a dog.
I think it's there.
Listeners,
it's there.
do you
What
agree
think?
with Shaun?
Yeah,
Mel
take a
thought
look
it was
at
there.
Take a look at only because you psychosomatically convinced her
Well,
that it
I
was
didn't
there.
psychosomatically convince you.
Well, I can't be psychosomatically convinced because I'm a greater intelligence than most people, not just Mel.
So that means you control snow.
That's why he has a snowball microphone.
TARDIS interior.
You're silly.
TARDIS interior. What do
Let's
you
talk
guys
about the
think?
TARDIS
What do you
interior.
think? We got a
I-
sneak peek of it beforehand, so we kind of knew what was
Yeah.
coming. But
I like it.
I like it.
I especially like the rotating,
rotating
top
top.
with the
Yes.
Gallifreyan.
that's very cool.
I don't know how I feel about
Roundels return on the back wall.
I don't know how I feel about the light up roundels.
Oh, I think that's cool.
I don't
mean,
have a problem with the light up
because-
roundels. I wish there were more of them.
Because we've
Maybe
never
that.
had the light up roundels like that before, I would agree that it's quite different. But it also makes them stand out back there because that's something that through the course of the classic series, even though they're just basically indentions in the wall that create the roundels, it's a very iconic, noticeable thing when you go into that room because they're everywhere on the walls.
Yeah.
And throughout the Eccleston, Tennant, and even Matt Smith era, they've subtly been back there. They've never gone away.
They've been more hexagon shaped
But yeah,
than
they
round.
have been. Yes, they have been hexagonal. But it's the same idea that it's
Yeah.
back there. But now to really call attention to it by lighting them up, back to the circular design and lighting them up, I like that because in the context of that very science fiction-y now looking TARDIS console, they still could have gotten lost back there. But this brings them out and really gives you that classic
and if
feel.
you look closely, because all of the attention is focused on the light up roundels, below them are still hexagonal patterns.
Yes,
in
they're
the
still
walls.
there. Yeah.
So it really is the ultimate
melding
blend
of the both.
of all of the stuff that we've had before. Because we've got some of this, we've got this, we've got kind of a ramp leading down.
we still have the ramp around the
We've still
Which
got
is
upper
very
level.
Yes,
11th
we
Doctor.
which is very
Level,
11th Doctor. The I don't know, the Time Rotor specifically is very 8th Doctor with
Yes.
the neon tubing
Yes.
inside
Yes.
of it. And I have to go
I
back
liked that how the roundels turned off when they went into flight. There was that transition.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. The background went dark as the console lit up.
Oh,
as
I
they
didn't
went to go
notice that.
fly.
Oh,
and then you look up and you see the top rotate.
Yeah,
That's
I
when the
remember
top
seeing
starts
the
to
top
rotate,
rotate.
I think.
The rest of the room
and the time rotor
I hope
going.
they continue that the rest of the room goes dark and okay, we need to focus. We're traveling.
Okay.
The one thing that I will say that
Like
I'm
an
not
airplane
necessarily a
at
big
night.
fan of
Yeah.
is the color scheme. The lighting in this particular episode, again, it's Christmas. I understand the reasoning for it because it was blue and kind of greenish when they switched to different things, but it seems like a very dark console.
It seems like it's gone
to,
instead of white and classic, it's now gray.
Yeah.
yeah, it's very gray.
Bit of a
And
gray.
that almost feels to me like an updated quote unquote version of it.
The lighting reminds me of the whatever it was that Tom Baker flew for very briefly the
You're
wooden
talking
one.
about this wooden 70s paneling?
The paneling. Because that room was so
secondary?
dark compared to everything
It was
else that
dark,
we'd
yeah.
seen. You know, not that it was bad. It was just
Not nearly as
different.
dark as this room, but yeah.
That's just it. It's all of a sudden a very dark room.
Which, and
So,
I wonder if it's going to brighten up because it was dark because of his mood.
that could be.
He was keeping it dark.
That's
keep
what I mean.
him
I'll be
moody.
interested to see more of it
Yeah.
and see what they do with it. But I like the new look. I like the new console.
Really, thinking in the trailer, from what I remember seeing, granted there's not a lot of the TARDIS console in the trailer, it doesn't seem as dark to me.
And I have to admit, I love their explanation for getting a new one. I mean, we've kind of put all these things out there about, well, maybe the Doctor changed it because of his mood and he didn't want to be reminded of the ponds, or maybe this, maybe that. And it's a simple matter of, we built the 11th Doctor's console room. It was
Well.
at the old studio. We changed studios and we couldn't move it. It was too frickin' big to cut into pieces and ship out. So we we just built a new one.
Right.
Once again,
And it couldn't come at a
necessity.
better time. Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
I love the console. I thought it was awesome. I do want to address the sexy needs a paint job, because I thought that when I saw all the previews for it, I was like, wow, he's really let the TARDIS kind of go to pot. And that's something that I'd always appreciated about Matt Smith's Doctor, was he kept a clean TARDIS. He changed the bulb on top regularly. He did these things to make it work, you know. And it didn't look that way in this one. Is it? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Is it actually fallen into a state of disrepair on the outside, or is it just that there was maybe ice condensation from being up on the cloud?
You remember in Time of Angels, or Angels Take Manhattan, River references how it could use its paint job.
Yeah.
He hasn't touched it since that episode.
He just hasn't got to it. Okay.
He hasn't. No, he hasn't touched it in memory of the ponds.
It was getting worse for the wear by the end of its run with the ponds. At which point, had he continued with the ponds, I kind of get the impression he might have put a fresh coat of paint on it, because he was that type of doctor. However, as Keith's saying, because it was already on its way to the paint job getting pretty rough, by this time he hasn't touched it at all. He has nothing that he wants to do to the exterior. He doesn't want to do anything because he's still brooding over the loss of the pond.
Which I'm kind of surprised he's done
the
something
way
to
that
the
it
interior
looks,
at
it
this
gives you
point.
the impression that there has been a lot of time passed.
Actually, I saw a picture of the two from Touched by an Angel, or not Touched by an Angel, I keep saying the wrong title. Angels Take Manhattan and the Snowman, the TARDIS side by side.
Still very similar.
It's got the same exact layout of the dirt, or whatever you want to call it.
Battle scar.
Yeah, the battle scarring.
The battle damaged TARDIS.
It hasn't fallen into further, maybe a little bit further disarray, but not enough.
Like the battle damaged X-Wing.
Yes.
It was the first one.
Put
The
those
very
stickers
first
on it.
toy. You could put the transparent stickers over it and make it look battle damaged. I loved it. And I did it because a lot of my friends didn't. They said, "Oh, I don't want to mess it up." But I had the original clean white one from the first movie, and it didn't have the battle damage stickers, so I could put the battle damage stickers on the gray one, because the first one was like that bright white.
Yeah.
The second one was kind of that dingy gray. It was appropriate. I put them right on there.
And then they got smart and realized they could issue two different toys.
Yeah.
And that you'd buy both of
You
them.
buy both, because one that you didn't have to put the stickers on, and the other one that you did. I didn't do that, but they were smart. All right, anything else that we can talk about this episode? Get it in now, because we got to round this out and finish up.
I want to talk about, very briefly, because it was so great and such a great squee moment, the Sherlock bit, where he's dressed up as a doctor, and more specifically, the music.
Yeah.
This is so very much Moffat's Sherlock series music,
Yep.
which, when I heard that, I was like, oh, more than the Doctor dressing up as Sherlock, that did it than anything else.
Right.
That was the biggest squee moment for me.
And
it was pretty cool.
It was cool to see the transition too between you have a fish named whatever, and he's just going, and everything he predicts is wrong, to watching him where he's just, this is the Doctor misdirection. All of that buffoon act is just to throw them off their game.
Right.
So that they can then start to do the real deducing, where he picks up the file and throws it down and figures what's got going on, and just boom, boom, boom. It was so great. I also loved the switch in Matt Smith when he's brooding and he's not involved, and he's brooding and he's not involved, and he's brooding and he's not involved, and he starts investigating, but he's not involved.
Yeah.
And he saves the children, but he's not involved.
Which, That bow tie moment.
When he
Until he sees the bow tie.
And he realizes, he didn't even realize he put it on.
That's
what's
love
fantastic.
that part.
Then all of a sudden, when he straightens the bow tie and he says the line, yeah, it is cool, isn't it? My doctor's back.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, we're back to the normal status quo for Doctor Who. The first half of it is not so much. The second half of it is very much Matt Smith's
I
Doctor
love it's
back.
the bow tie that brings him back.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's such an iconic thing right there. I don't think I can add anything to Clara other than this is going to sound really weird coming from this one. The scene where she leaves the bar and hails a cab and goes to become the governess. And she draws the shades and opens her bag and pulls out the clothes and begins to undress. Anybody else think the camera lingered just a moment too long?
I can't believe that's coming from you.
I know. Isn't that weird that it's coming from me? I'm not going to deny
His
that I would
complaint
have
is
liked
that
to.
another button didn't go.
Well, because she starts to undo the button and nothing happens for like an hour. And it's like, are you going to cut away or are you going to make me watch this? Because I really want to watch this and I know you're going to cut away. And then they cut away. But did anybody else get that or was it just me? Quite honestly.
Just you.
Just you.
Okay. It just seemed like it took forever for them to cut away from her bosom. No?
I did.
Heck, anybody else out there with thoughts? Or maybe I'm
she
reading
undressed?
things.
No.
There were snowflakes in that picture, too. Real brief, I want to go back and touch on something you said, and I've been thinking about it. Now that I've seen it 3 times, I'm very much convinced that I agree. As much as Strax went up, I didn't get to say this earlier, that you kind of thought Vastra and Jenny maybe came down a little bit. And nowhere is that more specific than when they go to confront Simeon and the Great Intelligence, and he's reanimated, and she pulls the sword, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, because
And then she doesn't get to do anything.
And she doesn't do anything
Yeah.
because I wanted Vastra, the defeater of Jack the Ripper, and the good man goes to war, kicked the whole army's butt with her sword, and and obviously you couldn't do that because I would
something.
I would have liked for her to take a swing at him and he deflected it or did something that then knocked her out.
At least
Just
to give her some action.
give her that moment, in the sun to kind of get her thing going. But I still think I'd like a series. I'd still think a Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax series would be.
Well, now you can add Strax. That's the other thing is everybody kept saying Madame Vastra and Jenny, and too bad you couldn't do Strax though because he died. Now you can. Moffat could pretty much fix that.
I
think
would want Strax as a recurring character, not as a series regular.
No. I think it would have worked as a series with just the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I think it becomes such a stronger series with the 3 of them. You put those 3 anchors together because Vastra's going to be the investigative detective figuring things out, and she's going to have Jenny to rely on and their relationship stuff. And then Strax will become this odd tag-along who,
Tactician, though.
Wants to blow everything up.
And
Do not give me nuggies during tactical prep.
And occasionally we'll get to blow something up.
Use a grenade.
I think it would be awesome.
Trailer.
The trailer.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done now.
Trailer.
I mentioned earlier how much I was not looking forward to Series 7 because the Pawns were leaving. I have the exact opposite for the rest of the season. Bring it on. I just can't wait. Not only the Clara stuff and the idea that this is going to be the 3rd Clara we're going to encounter, and somehow it's connected in that great mystery. But it looks like the show is almost going in a darker tone of its stories.
We've said that a number of times.
I know.
We've said that a number of times.
But this trailer
Never
more
seen
than
it go-
anything.
never seen it go
I
down
don't know.
I mean, I see what you're saying.
And reading some analysis of the trailer.
I see that trailer and I see the same thing, and I know what you're saying, but in the back of my mind, I have to continue to tell myself that at least 2 or 3 times before I've seen a trailer and gone, oh, they're going dark. They're going dark. Only to be...
I don't get that
Status
impression at
quo.
all. It looks like a big... It looks like more of the same for season 7.
Yeah.
It looks like big movie epic. We've got the submarine episode. We've got
Well,
this episode.
I still
We've got
get that.
the
Yeah, I still
It
get
feels
that
that.
impression
It
that
just
we're
doesn't
getting that
feel
right.
like the dinosaur on a spaceship vibe to it. Which, in the trailer, we didn't get much clips from dinosaurs on a
That's what I'm saying.
spaceship.
We didn't.
So-
We got Asylum of the Daleks, and we got those
and
real
the
dark
Western.
and brooding. Yeah, I mean,
it's true.
We did get those serious.
But from what I've seen of analysis and what has leaked about episodes,
what are you doing? Reading stuff about leaking from episodes?
I read analysis, and that gave me leaked information. It's the information we know, quote unquote. All the episodes seem to be fairly equally represented in this trailer. The Cybermen, seeing them in action is granted 2 shots, but it's still that squee of
yawn.
Cybermen.
Yawn. Cybermen.
Yawn.
Yeah, I'm not excited about Cybermen again.
More than the ghosts we saw in this trailer.
I'm more excited for Cybermen knowing that Neil Gaiman said he's going back to old school Cybermen.
Yeah.
That really gives me a lot of hope.
It gives me hope, but I've got to see it before I really...
I'm going to base everything on the fact that Neil
Before I
Gaiman
get
didn't
excited
disappoint
about
me
it.
with The Doctor's Wife, and I was blown away by that one. I'm willing to
agree.
go into this one with a little bit of
agree.
okay.
I just
let's
wish
go.
he'd have tackled something besides something tried and overdone.
Well, Moffat gave
Well,
it to
no,
him,
he
though.
already did Daleks. We've already done Daleks this season.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's tried and
Tried and
overdone.
I really, the Daleks even surprised me because I'm such a champion of the Daleks, but I went into this season going, are we really? Because I posed that question to you guys.
Are we ready for
really
another
ready
Dalek
for
episode?
another Dalek episode? And
And
I was
beforehand
ready.
it was no, and afterwards it was yeah.
I was ready on the sheer fact that just it was Daleks, but I still went into it going, okay, well, this could potentially just be another Dalek story, and do we really want another Dalek story? But
How much are you guys going to freak at the end of season 7 when Clara looks at the Doctor in the TARDIS and her head goes, that thing comes out of her forehead?
there's a plan.
Here
for the
now,
Daleks.
here's something. Who was it that brought it up on Sunday after we watched it? Was it Patrick or?
Yes, it was Patrick.
Patrick, not I mean, he watches Who, but he's not a. And
He didn't even see all of season 5.
Yeah, I mean, so he turns and says, "So for the Whovians in the room, did you notice?" And Keith and I both went, "What?"
I was ready to go, yeah, of course.
It's the Sonic.
There's
No.
a shot where they're going down, early in the trailer, where they're going down the corridor, and he has the Sonic in front of him. It's bluish white.
Oh yeah, I noticed that too. I'm glad you said that. I was going to bring that up as well. Yeah,
Different color.
it is different color. I did notice that. Yeah, you're right.
Which lends, I believe it was
It's-
off mic,
it's-
but it lends to the toy
It's
we
actually
That-
blue
that-
here and white, more white
Yeah.
here. On
Yeah.
the
That
outside,
that theory that we
kind
kind of postulated and decided we weren't going to talk about because
Right.
we didn't want to. I think it lends credence to that
It does
theory,
lend a lot of
especially
credence.
tied in with what we
Now
kind of sort
that
of
we've-
established about Clara.
You're
Yeah.
right. No,
So-
you're absolutely right.
There's one that'll bake your noodle. I'm excited for the season.
I'm really excited for the
and
season.
I'm really disappointed and depressed that I've got to wait until April.
I know, April.
Bring it on.
And I listened to your show finally from start to end of The Odd Couple, and you speculated that it was going to come back on March 30th.
March 30th. I'm
You're
still calling it.
absolutely wrong. There would
Easter?
that'd be the stupidest marketing ploy in the world
Oh,
to
'cause
say
we've never
we'll be
had an
back
Easter
in
special.
April.
Well-
And then come back on March. That's just dumb. That makes you look like an idiot from a broadcaster point of view. You're not going to tell people you're coming back in April and then show it on March 30th. That's a bumbling idiot.
That's the end of April.
That is
or the end of
no,
March.
beginning
that's
of
a
April.
that is a
Beginning of
bumbling
April.
idiot mistake because
Well, I think
that
when-
would be what you would try to do. Well, it's kind of April. It's almost April. No, you don't do that. When you say you're going to do April, you have to go through with being April, and it's going to be that first week. Here's the
I would
other
agree
thing
if they
that
had
you're
said
wrong.
Spring.
You made the comment that they traditionally come back the Easter weekend. That has not always been true. It has happened a few times that they've been on Easter weekend,
Well, that's
but
enough to make it traditional.
the majority of the returns in April have been a week before or a week after April. Now, it's always been around April or Easter. It's always been around Easter,
And
but it's not always been on Easter.
Who at
weekend.
this table had the date right for the premiere of season 7?
Touche.
Okay, then.
Well, only because of wild speculation that really kind of panned out to be correct, but
March 30th.
you're so off base. Anyway, that was a couple of things that I had to chide you about. So, all right, what's on the schedule for next week, Shaun?
What'd you think of my review, Glenn?
I did
Was it insightful?
I did enjoy
Was
both
it-
your reviews,
Thank you.
and it really, 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 you both did a fantastic job. This is no reflection on how you review the books. I'm more intrigued by Apollo 23 because, as you even pointed out to me maybe last week, or maybe it may not have been off of show, that touched by an angle, touched by an angle, 90-degree one, touched by an angel,
attached by triangles,
touched by an angel, really seems to have that blink.
I think I mentioned that on the show.
I think maybe that's where it was. That it kind of has that template. And I almost, well, I'm still intrigued and probably would read it. I still think I'd have that stigma in the back of my mind that it just isn't as good as Blink, And so I think that would sour it for me. But Apollo 23 really sounds like thinking outside the box and coming up with a concept that's just really kind of out there. I mean,
I think
this
that
wormhole from Texas to the moon, and things just accidentally flew through or wandered through every once in a while. I mean, that was amazing. And your whole, do you step out, you take the helmet off, you take a big deep breath. No, you don't do that because you know everybody else has been sucked back through and is asphyxiated on the other end. Yet the doctor and the guy that he goes with do just that.
I'm still stuck on the idea of the lunar dead animal truck. that just...
I did get checked out. That's the other thing I bring up, though. I've always assumed that there's a dead animal truck. I've always just assumed that.
You've never seen it?
You've never seen the dead animal truck?
I've never seen... And I lived in western Kansas, where there was roadkill about every other day on the road.
Well, it's because you guys cooked it.
We scoop it up, put it in the frying pan. But I never in my life have seen a dead animal truck. And you guys talk about it like you see them on the road every other day or something. I believe there is one.
To be fair, I've only seen it once, and there were hooves, and I could smell.
I've lived 40 years now, and I've never seen the dead animal truck.
We'll go out sometime on a weekend.
You guys talked about it like it was an everyday occurrence, like it was the ice cream truck that comes down the street at 8 o'clock.
They play a happy little tune.
You brought up the dead animal truck. The other, there was one. Oh, you made me lose my thought. There was another thing that I chorkled at. What was it? Oh, when you were explaining about. Sorry. They're launching back to the moon in this little tin can made of aluminum foil. The guy attacks him with a spanner. And we all know how these things are made out of tin foil because they had to get him out into space, so they had to get rid of as much weight as they could. But some idiot wrote the fact of that spanner. And the doctor even later says, I wouldn't do that because these things are these things are made out of tin foil. I just chuckled at that the whole time. I never would have thought of that. Leave it to Shaun to realize
sometimes my brain doesn't...
Leave it to Shaun to realize that wouldn't work. My wrench is too heavy. All right, anyway.
I did finish Touched by an Angel, by the way. Oh. And it is good, and it is worth a read. And I
probably will read it.
I think it loses
I was
the
more
Blink,
excited about yours.
I think it loses the Blink comparison as it goes on. But
yes, I would agree.
It's still...
Aside from the quote-unquote resolution to it.
It's still a template for it.
Okay. Which and the bigger problem, I think, is the retrospect of Angels Take Manhattan issue of the paradox.
Right. How they're actually feeding off of it in Touched by an Angel.
Yes.
And it affects them.
But you know what? There was one line in the book where Roy or one of the companions said something to the effect of, what do you mean there's different weeping angels out there? Almost like they have tribes or something. And he didn't go into that much detail about it. I could almost buy
the genetics and the species would remain the same regardless.
You sort of get that impression from... what was the Angel two-parter in the first season? Matt Smith's first season.
Why can we never remember the title of this one?
Time of Angels.
Time of Angels.
Flesh and
Stone.
In that one, they talk about the deviation, because at one point it was believed that only the angels were, the statues, but that they've kind of taken on, they've deteriorated and reformed to some sort like an evolved type species. So you get the impression that there's a divergence in the species there as well. So,
but I could almost, and again, this total retcon, but that one line was kind of enough to make me go, I would be okay with believing that this particular cluster of angels is kind of like the
vegetarians of...
Well, no, I would go the opposite. They're the druggies. They're the ones that, even though it's bad for you, we're going to feed on that paradox anyway, and we need the next hit, so that's why we're willing to set it up.
That maybe eventually that would be their undoing.
That
they're
could be.
feeding off of it because it has an effect.
I never thought of it in that
I don't know. It
perspective,
was
so
just
possible.
one line
Yeah.
about, well, you mean there's different angels out there, and all of a sudden in my head it kind of went, I'm going to be okay with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me that it contradicts the previous episode now.
Or a future episode, really.
A to-be future episode.
So much for the past. What's on the future?
On the future, looking into the crystal ball, I see Peter Davidson next week, Friday Night Who. We're going to be doing The Awakening. So if you have the episode or access to it, join us.
We have it, right?
We have it.
Okay.
It's
No, I
not
need
on
you to order
Netflix.
it.
I
I
for
don't
some
have
reason
it.
thought
So
it was.
that was one of the ones I was supposed to get.
No,
The Awakening is not on Netflix.
No, I thought
No,
it
it's
was
not.
for some reason.
No. But we I've completely
Big
lost
Finish.
the train of thought. Awakening for Friday Night Who. If you have it, have access to it. We push play at midnight on Friday. And then
If you don't have access to it, get access to it. Join us on Friday
because
night.
it's a lot of
Yes.
fun.
It is fun. That's only 3 days from
And we
now.
tweet along. And it's only 3 days from now. So you better hurry and get it ordered. Amazon store is open.
I got
Go to
bad
the
news,
Vortex
son.
website.
They got us.
And then I've started listening to it. I don't know if you guys have. You've already
Yes, I
listened to it. Loup Garou. You like how I pronounce that? Almost
Garou.
like my brain remembered some French.
Look at that.
Not really. So Big Finish number 20 in the main line, Loup Garou for next week.
All right. Very good.
And have I told you all about the McGann's next week, right? The following
The
week.
following week.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Refresh our
We
memory.
can have- Refresh our memory. We're watching Pandora Opens Big Bang the following week for Friday Night Who because we won't be reviewing an episode, so we're going to cover one we've already done. Instead, we will be talking about the next two Big Finish in the McGann's sequence of events, number 52 and 53 in the main line, Shizuro and the Creed of the Cormon.
And this is where he and Charlie have gone into the
Divergent
Divergent
universe. And I know we're all waiting to get back to that. So there's a lot of Big Finish on your plates. Make sure you get them listened to.
All right. If that's all we have, that's it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Shaun.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
Boom, 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 boom. Feed of show. Why would you do feedback? Why not do feedback?
I don't
now?
know.
That's
Because
just
that was
silly.
the new song. I almost said feedback too.
Thank you.
Sold you on it, didn't I?
And the song, no, just because it was so idiotic the first time. I mean, I'm sorry. It was so different the first time. It really wasn't idiotic.
Yeah, it was. You could say it. End of show. Winter is coming. The last winter of humanity.
That's my line.
We're watching Game of Thrones.
In a world where Shaun does a new feedback.
In a world where killer snowmen live on every street corner, one man makes the difference between a universe of chaos and insanity. Strax. Give him a grenade and he's good. Give him an acid fish and a laser monkey and he's even better. Coming soon to a theater near you, The Adventures of Madame Vastra and Strax. Jenny also appearing in this feature.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.